Chapter 52-47. Get up. Xiao Hua and the others hurriedly raised their hands and helped the disciples up. Xiao Hua took the lead and said, "This old man doesn't have much time to wait, and I won't ask about the fortune gates matters in detail. This old man has heard from Third Master that all of you have done well. This old man is very pleased. Thank you for First Master's praise." The disciples were overjoyed. Fujiwen. Xiao Hua looked at the disciples below the stage and asked, "Can any of you tell who is the senior brother and who is the junior brother?" Fujiwen stepped out from the crowd with a wry smile on his face. Reporting to First Master, "Your teachings are too good. All of us have strong magic power, and none of us died in the mouths of the world-extinguishing mayflies, so we still can't tell who is the eldest senior brother. These few days we have already agreed that whoever ascends first will be the eldest senior brother, and so on." All right. Xiao Hua was helpless listening to Fujiwen's words. He waved his hand and said, "You can decide this matter yourselves. Where is Zhang Hong?" "This disciple is here." Zhang Hong hurriedly stepped out and respectfully said, "May I know what First Master's decree is?" Xiao Hua did not speak. Instead, he looked at Enlightened Master Yun. Enlightened Master Yun said, "Zhang Hong, you have done a meritorious deed by guarding the West Sea Dragon Palace. This seat will confer you the title of West Sea Dragon King." With that said, Enlightened Master Yun bestowed the West Sea Dragon throne and other items to Zhang Hong. Zhang Hong's dragon body trembled with excitement. She received the dragon throne and respectfully knelt on the ground, saying, "This disciple thanks Sacred Dragon for the bestowal." Enlightened Master Yun said indifferently, "Although you are not the West Sea Dragon King, you have exercised the West Sea Dragon Palace's authority and carried out the West Sea Dragon King's duties. You have done many things in this world, and that's it. If this seat doesn't confer the title to you, who else can I confer the title to? This disciple understands. This disciple will spare no effort to guard the West Sea Dragon Palace well for our fortune gate." Zhang Hong stood up and returned to her seat. After that, Xiao Hua explained other matters, including the matters of the Imperial Thunder Sect, the Rejuvenation Chamber of Commerce, the Star-Plucking Pavilion, and so on. Finally, he said, "This old man and a few others have already investigated the 3 continents. All the world-exterminating mayflies have been killed, and there is not a single trace of them left. This is the ability of the sect master and the other masters, and also our fortune." Lu Yi and the other disciples felt relieved and said, "But..." Xiao Hua hesitated for a moment before saying, "The world-exterminating ephemera's mother insect should be different from these child insects, but we didn't find the mother insect. If it wasn't for the fact that the insect queen didn't exist in the first place, then the insect queen would have been killed." Sect Master Wang Bianfei hurriedly stepped out and said, "Disciple once went to the Immortal Palace under the order of the 3rd Sect Master. I heard from the Immortal Palace inspector that they had searched the 3 continents, but they had never seen a trace of the insect queen." "It's just a guess." Huang Tong smiled. "Since we haven't found anything, let's not talk about it." Xiao Hua nodded and looked at Lu Yi. "Where is Lu Yi?" "Disciple is here." Lu Yi hurriedly stepped out and saluted respectfully. Although the Dawn Rain continent's spiritual energy has resolved the 3 continents' calamity, this spiritual energy is fatal to us Tao cultivators. You are in charge of the Fortune Gate's affairs, so you are responsible for our Fortune Gate's disciples' cultivation in the future. Xiao Hua then briefly explained the situation on the Dawn Rain continent. This old man left Yuanya on the Dawn Rain continent, while Xiong Yi and Li Xiang led the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Fortune Gate's disciples to establish a sect on the Dawn Rain continent. Although you won't be together in the future, you are all Fortune Gate's disciples, so you have to think and discuss our Fortune Gate's disciples' cultivation in the future. Yes, this disciple understands. Louis answered. This is this old man's modified cultivation technique. Pass it to your disciples first. Xiao Hua said as he passed the various cultivation technique jade slips to Lu Yi. Our Fortune Gate has already used the spiritual root selection method. It only needs to be slightly modified. This disciple thanks the sect master on behalf of the Fortune Gate's disciples. Lu Yi received the jade slips and knelt down to kowtow. The group of disciples kowtowed again to express their gratitude. Xiaohua closed his eyes for a moment and felt that he had not missed anything. He turned to look at the lightning Taoist and the others and asked, "Does anyone have anything to say?" "No." Everyone pondered for a moment and then shook their heads. Xiaohua looked around and said, "This old man has said what I wanted to say, but this old man's final warning is, in the future, all of you will have to walk on your own. Remember, the first rule of our Fortune Gate is that our Fortune Gate's disciples are most afraid of causing trouble. Anyone who is found to cause trouble must be killed." Yes, this disciple understands. Several senior disciples, including Gong Shui Xian, Zhai Xingzi, and the others, felt a chill in their hearts. They knew that Xiaohua was talking to them, so they quickly bowed and answered. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, "All right, all of you may rise. This old man's karmic ties with these fellow Taoists in the 4 continents have been settled, and we will be ascending soon. Those with profound cultivation can cultivate in seclusion for a few days. When we ascend in the morning, all of you can observe and comprehend." "Master!" All the disciples cried and knelt on the ground. They kowtowed 9 times and said, "Although we know that this is a joyous occasion, we are all reluctant to part." "Don't act like a sentimental person." Xiaohua's eyes were filled with tears as he smiled and said, "This old man will be waiting for all of you in the immortal world." "That's right. This king will also be waiting for all of you in the heavenly court." Wen Chu also smiled. Everyone cried for a moment, but after hearing Xiaohua's command, they reluctantly left. Xiaohua wanted to keep Lu Yi, Zhai Xingzi, and the others to say a few more words, but he could feel the immortal spiritual energy in his body surging like blood from time to time, so he did not dare to say much. He waved his hand and reluctantly let them leave. At this time, only Princess Qingqing and Princess Zixia were left in the Fortune Dao Palace. Xiaohua opened his mouth, but no one knew what he wanted to say. Princess Zixia smiled and said, "Since Fairy Hongxia is unwilling to accompany you, this concubine will accompany you. There must be someone watching over you, right?" Xiaohua was overjoyed, but he hesitated and said in a low voice, "This is very dangerous. I don't know if it will work. If big sister can go, why can't I?" Princess Zixia smiled and said, "Moreover, don't you think that if I stay in the 4 continents, won't I be making trouble for Lu Yi and the others? The immortal palace has imperial father. I can't stop them. Also, I am a Confucian cultivator, and I ascended to the heavenly court. If I want to see the Wisdom Dao Palace's master, it will be tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years later, but if I want to see you, it is absolutely impossible. Do you have the heart to abandon me?" Haha. Xiaohua knew that Princess Zixia was different from Fairy Hongxia. He laughed loudly and stood up. He took out the Kunlun mirror and said, "Since that is the case, this Xiao will live and die with you." Yes. Princess Zixia's eyes were also filled with determination. Live and die together. It's almost too late. Wen Chu urged. All right. Xiaohua didn't have time to explain. He activated the Kunlun mirror and sent Princess Zixia and Princess Qingqing into the Shenhua continent. Just as he stood up, the Thunderbolt Venerable suddenly said, "Fellow Taoist, take you Xiaojing too. Without Princess Qingqing, she can't stay in the Fortune Gate." Xiaohua smiled, knowing that the Thunderbolt Venerable was really humane. He called for Yu Xiaojing and sent her into the Shenhua continent. Xiaohua stood up and looked at the Throne of Fortune. He smiled and said, "This Throne of Fortune will be left here. Let Lu Yi and the others sit on it. The waves behind surpass the waves before. We will be forgotten in the end." Feng Wu also smiled and said, "We should go to the immortal world to find our own thrones." At this time, Demon Venerable Shi didn't have any smile on his face. He took a step forward and walked in front of everyone. His gaze started from Xiaohua, then the Thunderbolt Venerable Wen Chu, all the way to Huang Tong. Xiaohua's heart ached. He knew what Demon Venerable Shi wanted to do. He took out the Kunlun mirror and wanted to release the Maitreya Buddha. However, Demon Venerable Shi quickly stopped him and said, "Big brother, don't let fourth brother come out. I will go in and bid him farewell." All right. Xiaohua nodded. He kept the Kunlun mirror and looked at Demon Venerable Shi. "Big brother." Demon Venerable Shi flew in front of Xiaohua and raised his hands. Xiaohua also raised his arms and hugged Demon Venerable Shi, patting his shoulder. Damn it, ninth brother. Thunderbolt Venerable's tears actually flowed out. He cried out, this feeling of being humane is really not good. Second brother. Demon Venerable Shi also flew over and hugged Thunderbolt Venerable. If you don't have humanity, how can us brothers be perfect? When he got Taoist Wu, Demon Venerable Shi asked, sixth brother, have you sensed the place of ascension? Taoist Wu's face was calm as he replied indifferently, I have already said this in Meng Mountain. I don't know where to ascend. Then what is sixth brother's plan? Demon Venerable Shi asked. Why don't you go to the demon world with me? Taoist Wu shook his head and said, I can't go now. I still have to help Taoist Xiao set up the 9 provinces Great Formation. After setting up the formation, I will probably retreat to Meng Mountain to avoid attracting the attention of the other sections. In that sealed space, there is a statue of the 13th Great Soul Cultivator God. I will go to the statue to see if I can find the mystery of ascension. Then, I will probably wait for the future Shaman King in Meng Mountain. Of course, if I have the time, I will go to the demon world. Then I will wait for sixth brother's arrival in the demon world. Demon Venerable Shi hugged Taoist Wu and said goodbye to Yun Jinren. Seeing Celestial Being, Demon Venerable Shi smiled and said, eighth brother, what about you? Celestial Being said heartlessly, I also don't feel any signs of ascension. When you asked Taoist Wu, I also thought about it. After helping Taoist Xiao set up the formation, I will go to the Tao Alliance and Heaven Alliance and go to the 10,000 demon world from their forbidden area. I don't like that crow, so I will cut a few of his feathers. When I am tired of playing in the 10,000 demon world, I will go to the demon world. There is also a passage in the 10,000 demon world, right? Xiaohua was sweating when he heard this. After Demon Venerable Shi hugged Celestial Being and Huang Tong, he looked at everyone reluctantly and bowed respectfully. Brothers, my path is not in the 4 continents. I will go to the demon world. Although I don't know what I will encounter in the demon world and what will happen after I ascend to the demon world, I will remember what you said just now. Since I am born from the same root, I will always have our fortune gate in my heart. If possible, I will also be in the demon world, and even Moze will create the fortune gate. I hope that we can meet in the upper realm in the future, and then we will still be brothers. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a reward, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 5248. Jie. Fengwu couldn't help but cry out. I can't bear it anymore. Does the demon clan also know the pain of separation? I'm leaving. Demon Venerable Shi didn't answer. He looked at his clones, and tears appeared in his yellow-faced eyes like a human's. Damn it. Celestial Being cursed. Demon Venerable, you're too fake. How can the demon clan cry? Haha. Demon Venerable Shi laughed. Big brother, you're a human. I don't dare to not be a human. Let's go, let's go. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, let's go. The road is under our feet. Maybe we'll be together again. Then Xiaohua and the others flew out of the Fortune Palace. The disciples didn't go far. Seeing them come out, they knelt down again and shouted, farewell, sect masters. Xiaohua and the others tore through the void and were about to fly to the immortal palace. At this moment, a vast divine sense swept across the western sky and fell on Xiaohua and the others. It was surprised and then retreated like a tide. Oh! Xiaohua smiled and looked at the source of the divine sense. They came quickly. Big brother. Demon Venerable Shi said. I'll go first. Okay, go. See you in the upper realm. Xiaohua and the other clones watched as Demon Venerable Shi stepped into the void. Demon Venerable Shi went to the Dawn Rain continent. When he left the Sky Patrol City, he took Zhang Qingxiao with him and left her in Yellow Flower Ridge. Now he was going to return to Yellow Flower Ridge and take Zhang Qingxiao to the demon realm through the crack in the Demon Imperial Valley. After the Demon Venerable was killed, 30 minutes later, spatial ripples appeared in the sky, and several human cultivators flew out of the void. They were none other than the Yilan Continent's Tao Alliance's master, Elder Guqiong, Vice Alliance Master, Taoist Jiyan, Patriarch Yizhen of the Yi family, Bright Moon Householder, and Elder Peacock Kong Chong. Haha, welcome to the West Sea. Xiaohua smiled and cupped his hands in greeting. Both the cultivators of the Heaven Alliance and the Tao Alliance didn't dare to be negligent. They all saluted respectfully and said, "Greetings, Supremes." After greeting Huang Xiaolong, Old Man Guqiong looked at the Fortune Tao Palace in the West Ocean and smiled. "Is this Taoist Zhao's place?" "It's not a training ground." Xiaohua laughed. "It's just a place to stay. Since all of you came from the Dawn Rain mainland, you must have seen the Fortune Gate there, which is also this Zhao's disciple." "We understand." Taoist Ji Yan hurriedly replied. "Taoist Zhao's kindness to the Yilan mainland's Taoist Gate is as great as the heavens. Taoist Zhao's disciples are our Taoist Gate's disciples. Although we brought our disciples to the Lost Land, we've already given orders not to harass the Fortune Gate's disciples." "Fellow Taoist Ji Yan," Bright Moon Householder said with a smile, "since Wu Meng's barrier isn't here, how could there be a Lost Land? The Yilin continent and the Xiaoyu continent were originally one, so in the future, it should be called the Xinyo-He continent." Immortal Ji Yan disdainfully waved his hand and said, "I'll go back and investigate. The so-called Aparagodania continent is the name of the Buddhism sect. We Taoists can just call it the Yilin continent." "Haha." Xiaohua laughed and said, "Whether it's the Aparagodania continent or the Yilin continent, it's your business. It has nothing to do with this Xiao." Old Man Guqiong's heart skipped a beat, and he bowed and said, "This junior thanks Taoist Xiao. This junior has now resensed the immortal world's gate." "Very good, very good." Xiaohua nodded and said, "The immortal array has been broken, and the laws of heaven and earth have changed. It's normal for you to sense the immortal world's gate. However, this Xiao has to remind you that the immortal world's gate has changed because of the changes in the laws of heaven and earth. Now it's changing the three mainlands through the West Ocean. When the changes in the laws of heaven and earth are complete, the immortal world's gate will probably close again." "Alas, this junior knows." Old Man Guqiong sighed and said, "This is the junior's business. I hope that senior's modified cultivation technique can give them new hope." "All right." Xiaohua looked at everyone and said with a smile, "This Xiao has urgent matters to attend to, so I won't entertain you. Now that the barriers of the four mainlands have been opened, and you're all Taoist sovereigns, you can go anywhere you want. Of course, the Taoist sects, Confucian cultivators, Buddhist sects, and the demon race coexist in the four mainlands, so it's necessary for them to clash and get used to each other. Senior, what urgent matters are you going to attend to? We want to lend you a hand." Old Ancestor Yi hurriedly said. Xiaohua thought for a moment and said with a smile, "This Xiao wants to go to the Immortal Palace to meet Immortal Emperor Go Chan. Fine, you're all Taoist sovereigns, so this Xiao will introduce you to him. In addition, this Xiao also wants to explain the matter of the Dawn Rain continent to Old Ancestor Yi. After all, this Xiao killed your Yi clan's patriarch." Yi Zhan's face was filled with fear as he hurriedly said, "This junior already knows about this. My Yi clan has offended senior." "Haha." Xiaohua interrupted Yi Zhan and said, "Since you already know, then there's no need to say more. Xiao Mao has the bloodline of your Yi clan and is also my brother. We can be considered to be fated, so there's no need to say more. Let's go. Senior, please." Old Man Guqiong respectfully invited Xiaohua and the others to go first. When Xiaohua and the others stepped out of the void, they arrived at the Immortal Palace's southern heaven gate. This was Xiaohua's second time going to the Immortal Palace. Of course, this time he would not be asked to find a passage like last time. Wen Chu could freely enter the Immortal Palace, and even his Lightning Master's crown could bring him in. However, when Xiaohua and the others came out, an inspector from the Immortal Palace was already waiting for them. Seeing Xiaohua and the others appear, the inspector immediately sent out a message and respectfully flew over. He bowed and said, "Junior greets Master Lei, greets Scholar Palace Master, greets all the Supremes." Boom! Without waiting for Xiaohua and the others to speak, a distorted light flew out from the void of the southern heavenly gate. Sun Jian led the troops to welcome them. It seemed that they had been waiting at the southern heavenly gate for a long time. After greeting each other, Sun Jian smiled and said, "Master Xiao is indeed a trustworthy person." His Majesty was pleasantly surprised when he heard Master Zhao's words. He has been waiting for Master Zhao's arrival at the Lingyun Palace. Speaking of this, Sun Jian looked at the Dao sect cultivators behind Xiaohua, whose strength he could not see through, and was slightly stunned. Unfortunately, a meaningful smile appeared on Xiaohua's face and he did not explain. Instead he asked, "Is His Majesty ready? I don't have much time left." This. Sun Jian's face turned awkward and he said embarrassedly, "His Majesty he." While he was speaking, the colorful light behind Sun Jian transformed into a rainbow bridge that passed through the distorted time and space and landed in front of Xiaohua and the others. Seeing this, Sun Jian was overjoyed and said, "Master Xiao, His Majesty is already waiting at the southern heaven gate. The Immortal Palace's ceremonial guards are also in front of the gate. I'm afraid His Majesty is feeling guilty that he did not go to the Fortune Taoist Palace before, so he personally came to welcome us." "Haha, fine." Xiaohua went with the flow and said, "I won't make things difficult for you. I'll ask His Majesty after I see him." "Master Xiao Supremes, please." Sun Jian hurriedly stepped aside as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. He raised his hand and respectfully invited Xiaohua and the others to step on the rainbow bridge. The rainbow bridge was like a shuttle. Amidst the distorted light, the southern heaven gate was already in sight. Seeing that the southern heaven gate's aura was the same as before, and its brilliance was attracting people, Xiaohua had a smile on his face as he urged his figure to fly to the other side of the rainbow bridge. Before Xiaohua could stabilize himself, countless sounds of music, golden music, auspicious omens and dancing dragons and phoenixes appeared in front of the southern heaven gate. At the end of the auspicious light, 2 golden seats appeared. Immortal Emperor Gaochen, who was wearing a sun and moon imperial robe and a heaven and earth crown, and the majestic East Sea Empress, who was wearing a palace dress, were sitting on them. Their figures were different from before. They were only a few feet tall, but there were still countless inscriptions flying out from the void to their left like Jiao dragons and flying phoenixes. They swam around the 2 of them, and a suppressive aura spread out from the monarch and empress. Xiaohua smiled and pointed at the golden seats. He said to Old Man Guqiong, "Fellow Taoist, these are the masters of the Immortal Palace of the Confucian cultivators. They are Immortal Emperor Gaochen and the East Sea Empress." Old Man Guqiong and the others tidied their Taoist robes. After Immortal Emperor Gaochen and the others landed, Old Man Guqiong followed Xiaohua and cupped his fists. "Greetings, masters of the Immortal Palace." Immortal Emperor Gaochen was puzzled. He looked at Old Man Guqiong and the others and asked curiously, "Minister Xiao, who are these immortal friends with 9th grade origin energy? Why do they look so unfamiliar?" Xiaohua smiled and said, "They are the masters of the Tao Alliance and Heaven Alliance of the Yilin continent. They heard that Your Majesty has a Shiji paperweight in the Immortal Palace, so they came with me to the Immortal Palace to borrow it." Old Man Guqiong was very astute. Although Xiaohua didn't talk to him beforehand, he didn't show any change in his expression. He smiled and said, "Yes, there are many dangerous places in the Yilin continent. My Dao Sect's artifacts can't suppress them. I heard that Your Majesty has a Shiji paperweight, so I want to borrow it. Is it possible?" "Well." Immortal Emperor Gaochen hesitated as if he was reluctant. Beside him, the East Sea Empress smiled and said, "There is a saying in the Confucian cultivators, isn't it a joy to have friends coming from afar? Although the Shiji paperweight is precious, it is only a loan. Your Majesty can agree to it." Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled bitterly and said, "The Shiji paperweight is not a good thing in the Immortal Palace. I have already given it to someone. Now that I want it back." The East Sea Empress was stunned. She hurriedly said to Old Man Guqiong, "How about this? I have a Mountain River inkstone in the Immortal Palace that can suppress ghosts. I will send someone to get it. My Immortal Palace has been rude, so I will give it to you. What do you think?" "Thank you," Old Man Guqiong said, seeing that Xiaohua didn't say anything. "I have already prepared a gift for you. I hope Your Majesty doesn't mind." Before Old Man Guqiong could finish, Xiaohua sighed and said, "Xiexan, you are really Xiexan." "Ah?" Xiaohua's words were like a sudden clap of thunder that stunned everyone in the Immortal Palace. Even the East Sea Empress turned pale with fright. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it and reward it. Thank you for all your support. Chapter 52-49. Boom! Along with Xiaohua's words, Wen Chu, who was standing next to him, suddenly slapped his forehead. The five energies' origin rushed out as the heaven and earth pagoda broke through the sky. Countless shadows in the shape of the sky and earth suddenly fell down and covered Immortal Emperor Go Chan. Xiaohua! Immortal Emperor Go Chan roared. What are you doing? Could it be that you want to rebel? Along with his anger, the golden throne below him emitted a blinding golden light. Endless rays of light rushed out like dragons. The fate of the Confucian cultivators was like a belt and tried its best to attack the heaven and earth pagoda. Even with Wen Chu's control, the heaven and earth pagoda seemed to be unable to suppress this fate that represented the entire Confucian cultivator. What was special was that Immortal Emperor Go Chan suddenly raised his hand and took out the Son of Heaven's sword from his waist. He majestically slashed towards the sky. Woo! Within the whistling wind, the fate of the Confucian cultivators and the rays of light broke through the suppression of the heaven and earth pagoda and rushed into the Son of Heaven's sword. Thousands of flowers, birds, insects, fish, men plowing, women weaving, mountains, rivers, and palaces all rushed out from the Son of Heaven's sword. Seeing the heaven and earth pagoda shaking and the Son of Heaven's sword coming out, Wen Chu decisively waved his hand. Woo! A wild wind suddenly appeared as a huge sword pierced out from his hand. Thousands of suns, moons, stars, mountains, rivers, and grasses all turned into rays of light and fell into the rays of light. The Four Seas unification plan also turned into scrolls and slammed into the Xianyuan sword. The Xianyuan sword was indeed the nemesis of the Son of Heaven's sword. Needless to say, Wen Chu's strength was far above Xie Xian's. Even though the Xianyuan sword didn't have any splendor, it had a heroic aura that carried a heaven-defying power and instantly pierced through the majesty and imperial power of the Son of Heaven's sword. Rumble! With a loud explosion, the Xianyuan sword knocked the Son of Heaven's sword away, and even suppressed the rays of light and fate. When the rays of light disappeared, Wen Chu was already holding the Xianyuan sword in his hand. The sword energy of the Xianyuan sword deeply pierced into Immortal Emperor Go Chen's dantian and suppressed his true energy. The heaven and earth pagoda above Immortal Emperor Go Chen's head was now like a mountain and firmly suppressed the golden light of the Son of Heaven's pagoda. Xiao! Minister Xiao, enlightened being Xiao, scholar palace master. Immortal Emperor Gaochen stammered. What are you doing? Taoist Master Xiao. The East Sea Empress expression suddenly changed. She placed her slender hands on the golden throne. She didn't look at Wen Chu but instead glared at Xiaohua. Her eyes were spitting fire as she said, What are you doing? You have a personal grudge with the Immortal Emperor. If you have any requests, just say it. Why do you have to humiliate the Immortal Emperor in front of so many cultivators? You might be able to suppress the Immortal Emperor, but as long as I don't want to, you won't be able to kill him. Although the East Sea Empress' voice was stern, there was also a pleading tone in her words. If she had any tricks up her sleeve, why would she say it out loud? Xiaohua cupped his hands and said, Celestial Empress, don't be anxious. With that, Xiaohua activated the Kunlun mirror and released Princess Qingqing and Princess Zixia. The two princesses were waiting for the lightning tribulation on Shenhua continent, waiting for the heaven and earth to collapse. They were quite surprised to see Wen Chu pointing his sword at Immortal Emperor Gaochen. Zixia. Xiaohua smiled and said, Don't worry. This is what I said before. I have a surprise for you. Oh, Princess Zixia blindly replied. Since it was a surprise, of course it had to be something she didn't expect. What is this? Xiaohua waved his hand and took out the Shiji paperweight. The East Sea Empress was stunned. She said anxiously, Xiaohua, the Shiji paperweight is clearly with you. Why are you asking the Immortal Emperor for it? Mother. Princess Zixia said curiously. Father put this in Liao Zhonghai's eyes when he suppressed the boy. Ah, the East Sea Empress was shocked, as if she had realized something. Tai Bai jinxing? Xiaohua asked again. That day, after His Majesty suppressed Princess Zixia, did he talk to you alone in the Overcloud Palace about what you should do in Longevity Town after the Sutra Seeking of Nirvana? Tai Bai jinxing hurriedly stepped forward and answered. Yes. That day, His Majesty said that when we arrived at the Longevity Town, he wanted me to mention Princess Zixia and ask for her pardon. However, at the longevity town, I did as I was told, but was rejected by His Majesty. Very simple. Xiaohua said mockingly. Because he is Xie Exine, not immortal Emperor Go-chan. Moreover, Xie Exine, why don't you dare to follow Wen Chu and even follow me to set up the great array of the 9 provinces? I'm afraid it's because you can't set up the array, right? Damn it. Xie Exine didn't admit it at all. He said angrily, something went wrong with my cultivation. My soul was damaged and I even lost some of my memories. You don't want to admit it? Xiaohua smiled. The Kunlun mirror in his hand vibrated again. Another immortal Emperor Go-chan wearing a green robe and a pearl crown flew out. When this immortal emperor landed in the air, the entire space shook. Half of the righteous qi and Confucian qi that Wanchong sent to Xie Exine landed on this immortal Emperor Go-chan. The sun-moon crown and emperor's outfit gradually appeared. Everyone was shocked. They looked at the real and fake immortal Emperor Go-chan in disbelief. They didn't know how to distinguish between them. The East Sea Queen's lips trembled. Looking at this immortal Emperor Go-chan, she had a bad feeling. All of Xie Exine's previous doubts were cleared. However, it was only for a moment. She actually let out a long sigh of relief. After all, Xie Exine not going to the Hall of Fragrance and only favoring Fairy Yu of the Flower Medicine Palace was the biggest scar in her heart. Now it was her greatest happiness. The East Sea Queen pointed at the paperweight and asked, Your Majesty, what is this? Immortal Emperor Go-chan thought for a moment and smiled. This is the token of love you gave me. How could I not know? Isn't the Mountain River ink tablet from your Hall of Fragrance also a token of love from me? The Shiji paperweight and the ink slab were the Emperor's and the Queen's personal belongings. They were deeply engraved in each other's hearts. Immortal Emperor Go-chan used the paperweight to suppress Exine to explain to the Queen that he had no choice but to do so. The Queen, on the other hand, knew that Xie Exine had given the paperweight to Fairy Yu, so she angrily gave the ink slab to Old Man Gu Qiong. Now that immortal Emperor Go-chan explained himself, how could the Queen not know that this was the real immortal Emperor Go-chan? Your Majesty! The Queen stood up from her golden throne and was about to greet him when a sudden change occurred. A pale yellow scroll suddenly appeared in front of Xie Exine's chest. The pages flipped and blocked the sword's edge. At the same time, Old Man Gu Qiong shouted, How dare you! Xie Exine naturally didn't care about the others. When his left hand slammed on the golden seat, another golden arm grew out from under his left arm. That arm easily broke through the restrictions of the Heaven and Earth Pagoda and landed on the golden seat beside it, grabbing the East Sea Queen's neck. Hee. Xie Exine sneered after grabbing the Queen. He looked at the panicking immortal Emperor Go-chan and coldly said, You are already dead. Why do you still want to appear before me? Don't forget that I am also immortal Emperor Go-chan. Having said that, the Queen swung her right arm and slammed on the throne as well. Boom! The shadow of a guillotine flew out from Xie Exine's throne, and another guillotine platform from her throne. They turned into an immortal slaying platform and pounced on immortal Emperor Go-chan. Of course, immortal Emperor Go-chan used his techniques to block, but how could he escape from the immortal slaying platform that specialized in killing Confucian cultivators? Ha ha ha! Xie Exine laughed crazily. Right when he was about to speak, Xiaohua's thunderous voice came from above his head. Xie Exine, your daydream is so good. This old man admires you from the bottom of my heart. Ah! Xie Exine was shocked. He felt the light in front of him shatter and everything turned into fireflies. An illusory spirit treasure was floating on the throne. Wasn't this old man Gu Qiong's dream of peace? As for the real East Sea Queen, she had already controlled the throne to land next to immortal Emperor Go-chan. Damned Taoist cultivators! Xie Exine cursed in a low voice. He wanted to activate the golden throne, but immortal Emperor Gao-chen and the East Sea Empress' hands were tightly gripped. The Empress' golden throne emitted a boundless light that trapped Xie Exine's golden throne. No matter how hard Xie Exine tried, he couldn't activate it. Wen Chu frowned and activated the Heaven and Earth Pagoda, as well as the Xianyuan sword. He wanted to kill Xie Exine, but the book in front of Xie Exine's chest flipped and blocked the Heaven and Earth Pagoda's imprisonment and the Xianyuan sword's attack. If that's the case, Xiaohua smiled and took out the sword gourd. I am the lightning master of the immortal palace. It is my duty to eliminate the evildoers for the immortal palace. When Xie Xian saw this, he couldn't help but be shocked. He looked at the golden seat with some reluctance. He opened his mouth and poured his true qi into the book. The book flipped rapidly, and a yellow door flew out from the book and landed in front of him. Xie Xian stood up from the golden seat and looked arrogantly at the supreme martial artists on his left. He sneered and said, "So what if there are many supreme martial artists here? I see all the supremes in the world as ants." However, just as Xie Xian stood up, the golden throne immediately flew down below Immortal Emperor Go Chan. The husband and wife were of the same mind. Immortal Emperor Go Chan and the Eastern Sea Empress pointed at the golden throne at the same time. Boom! The two golden thrones let out a huge roar and shot up into the sky. Immortal Emperor Go Chan opened his mouth and a dragon-like cloud fell into the golden throne. The golden throne turned into the shape of a guillotine. The guillotine connected together into the shape of a mountain and emitted buzzing noises as it spun down. The Eastern Sea Empress wasn't slow either. She also opened her mouth and a ray of cloud fell into the other golden throne like a phoenix. This golden throne transformed into a guillotine and surged with golden light. Woo! The guillotine that was like a mountain and the guillotine that was like an ocean landed on the golden light. Inscription chains that were as thin as hair appeared in the golden light pillar and fell towards Xie Xian. They completely sealed the space around Xie Xian. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Chidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, donate it, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 5250. Haha. Xie Xian, who was about to step into the golden door, suddenly stopped and laughed. Gaochen, you still have the nerve to use such a method? Sure enough, the golden light on the door blocked the chains, preventing them from descending. Damn it! Immortal Emperor Go Chan cursed as if there was nothing he could do. I said I would kill you, how can I let you go? As Xiaohua spoke, he pointed at the sword gourd, and the executioner spirit origin light streaked across the sky. Xie Xian was greatly alarmed, and hastily tried to escape, but the executioner spirit origin light was too fast, and in an instant it landed on top of his head. At that moment, the book in front of Xie Xian's chest flew above his head, flipping and blocking the executioner spirit origin light. Haha, good treasure. Xie Xian laughed and clapped. This book of luo fruit is indeed an item of the heavenly court. Xiaohua, what can you do to me? Is that so? Xiaohua didn't say anything, but Wen Chu was furious. He raised his hand and slapped the door. 5 strands of Xiantian true energy rushed out and fell into the void. Boom, boom, boom. A bloody light shot up from below everyone's feet, and a bloody execution platform appeared. On the platform, there were 81 pillars surrounding Xie Xian. Wen Chu raised his hand and pointed. Woo! Each pillar produced 81 chains. Under the chains, the light of the Confucian cultivator was imprisoned and his fate was frozen. The golden door in front of Xie Xian also fell into the scroll. Seeing the chains descending on his body, Xie Xian panicked. Your Majesty! Xiaohua smiled and said, I won't interfere in the matter of killing an enemy. Thank you, Master Xiaohua. Immortal Emperor Gaochen gritted his teeth and pointed at the golden throne. The scythe on the scythe exploded with lightning. Gotcha! The scythe spun and fell down with a majestic lightning. This lightning also emitted an unstoppable destructive intent. All of this mercilessly fell on Xie Xian's body. The golden light on Xie Xian's body was imprisoned by the platform and the book of luo above his head was pinned down by the soul execution light. How could it resist? With a loud crack, the mountain-like guillotine cleaved Xie Xian into 2 halves. Even his primordial spirit and subbody couldn't escape. When the guillotine blade and the guillotine platform joined together, it looked exactly the same as what Xiaohua had seen earlier. It looked exactly like the immortal slaying platform. Xie Xian was killed. The situation was similar to when Xie Xian killed the fake Xie Xian. The 3 Purities Palace Master, Tai Bai Jinxing and the others were dumbstruck. Xiaohua pointed at the sword gourd and the execution spirit vital light, brought the book of luo back to his hand. Just as Xiaohua was about to speak, Yizhen hurriedly transmitted a voice transmission. Daoist Xiao, this book of luo is my Dao Sect's supreme treasure. Xiaohua actually didn't want to return the book of luo to Immortal Emperor Go Chan. so he naturally kept it in his space. Even when Chu rolled her eyes at him before keeping the heaven and earth pagoda and the Xian Yuan sword. Taoist Gu Qiong. Xiaohua looked at Immortal Emperor Gochun and said loudly, "Thank you for your spiritual treasure. Otherwise, Celestial Empress would have been in trouble today." Naturally, Old Man Gu Qiong had only released the treasure after receiving Xiaohua's message. At this moment he put away Mengping World and said with a smile, "Since you are a traitor, everyone in the world will punish you. Don't thank me." No. Immortal Emperor Gochun naturally knew the meaning of Xiaohua's words. He raised his hand and put away all of Xie Xian's belongings before saying with a smile, "This is the kindness of a Dao sect cultivator. This emperor will never forget it." Imperial Father. Princess Qingqing and Princess Zixia suddenly understood. They hurriedly knelt down with tears on their faces and kowtowed. "You have suffered. This emperor is fine." Immortal Emperor Gochun helped the two up and said, "This emperor was careless and actually allowed Xie Xian to succeed. I have caused you to suffer. Qingqing, this emperor will now give a decree to allow you to marry the lightning sage." Princess Qingqing's face was covered in tears as she kowtowed and said, "Imperial Father, although this decree is late, this boy still wants to thank Imperial Father." Oh! Both Immortal Emperor Gochun and the East Sea Empress were stunned and asked, "What do you mean?" After Princess Qingqing explained everything, Immortal Emperor Gochun fell into deep thought. After half a cup of tea's time, Immortal Emperor Gochun raised his head and looked at Princess Zixia and Princess Qingqing, then at Xiaohua, and finally at Old Man Gu Qiong and Bright Moon Householder. He raised his hand and took out the Supreme Heavenly Mirror. He handed it to Xiaohua and said, "Your Kunlun mirror is not complete. If you bring Qingqing and Xian to the immortal world, they will definitely die. If you put the Kunlun mirror together with the Supreme Heavenly Mirror, the chances will increase by 30%. Immortal Emperor Gochun did not finish his sentence, but Xiaohua understood his intentions. Since the 4 continents had been formed and the Dao sect cultivators on the Yilin continent were so powerful, the Dao sect cultivators would inevitably find out that Immortal Emperor Gochun used the Supreme Heavenly Mirror to imprison the Dao sect cultivators. Then the Peng Lai immortal realm would be a disaster. Xiaohua borrowed Old Man Gu Qiong's spiritual treasure to save the East Sea Empress to give Immortal Emperor Gochun a way out. Fortunately, Immortal Emperor Gochun understood Xiaohua's intention. Xiaohua did not take the Supreme Heavenly Mirror. Instead, he smiled and said, "Wouldn't it be better for your majesty to do it yourself?" Sigh. Immortal Emperor Gochun sighed and raised his hand to point at the Supreme Heavenly Mirror. The Supreme Heavenly Mirror flashed with 5 colors and Immortal Emperor Gochun said, "This emperor has received the grace of the Dao Sect's Supremes. This emperor follows the will of the heavens and the earth and pardons the citizens of the Peng Lai immortal realm. I hope that all of you can forget about the past and form a good relationship with us Confucian cultivators to build the 4 continents." Immortal Emperor Gochun frowned and looked at Xiaohua. He transmitted his voice to Xiaohua. "This emperor's Peng Lai immortal realm has lost a lot of cultivators. I'm afraid it's Xie Xian's doing." "That's right." Xiaohua smiled and said, "This guy must have colluded with the Grand Mist Ancestor. Otherwise, the cultivators of the Peng Lai immortal realm would not have been able to leave." "Oh right, although the Grand Mist Ancestor's main body was killed by this Xiao, a trace of his primordial spirit escaped and has not been found. I'm afraid that he has a clone. This clone might have colluded with Xie Xian. Your Majesty must be careful. This emperor understands. This emperor will definitely investigate the Immortal Palace and the hidden Immortal Continent thoroughly." Immortal Emperor Gochun said and pointed his finger. Countless fireflies flew out from the clear sky mirror and landed on the hidden Immortal Continent. Xiaohua and the others could clearly see that there were many human figures within the clear sky mirror. "I'll leave it to you." Immortal Emperor Gochun willingly handed the clear sky mirror to Xiaohua and said, "I hope that you can protect this emperor's 2 princesses." "Thank you, Your Majesty, for your concern." Xiaohua received the clear sky mirror and bowed. "This Xiao has misunderstood Your Majesty previously. It's not your fault, it's this emperor's fault." Immortal Emperor Gochun looked at the East Sea Empress lovingly, and then looked at Princess Qingqing and Princess Zixia lovingly. He said, They are this emperor's most precious people. How can this emperor bear to let them be wronged? For their safety, this emperor is willing to exchange anything, including the position of immortal emperor. Imperial father. Princess Qingqing and Princess Zixia could not help but pounce in front of the golden throne and hug immortal Emperor Go-chan. Since that's the case, Xiaohua said with a smile, then I will also give your majesty another gift. Xiaohua did not mention the 9 province cauldrons to immortal Emperor Go-chan earlier, so immortal Emperor Go-chan was stunned. He patted the 2 princesses' shoulders and looked at Xiaohua, asking, Beloved subject, what other gifts do you have? After this gift is given, this Xiao might not be able to see your majesty again. I hope that your majesty can return the 2 princesses to this Xiao and lightning immortal. Xiaohua replied. Princess Qingqing and Princess Zixia knew that it was time for them to leave. They reluctantly bid farewell to the immortal emperor and empress and entered Shanhua continent. Xiaohua turned his head and said to Lightning Immortal and the others, Let's go, fellow Taoists. We will re-establish the 9-province Great Formation for the Immortal Palace. What? 9-province Great Formation? Immortal Emperor Go-chen's entire body shook. He suddenly realized, this emperor understands. This is Xie Xian's plan. Yes. Xiaohua said in a low voice, Xie Xian's plan is not shallow. Your Majesty really wants to thoroughly investigate the Immortal Palace. After saying this, Xiaohua smiled at Old Man Guqiong and the others and said, This Xiao has promised you before. Now that you have come at the right time, I hope it will be of some help to you in the future. Old Man Guqiong and the others did not dare to be negligent. They hurriedly bowed and said, Thank you, Master Xiao, for your kindness. After saying this, Xiaohua turned around and was about to leave. Bright Moon Householder hurriedly said, Master Xiao, you rushed from the 3 continents to the 10,000 demon realm, then from the 10,000 demon realm to the Elin continent, and then to the Dawn Rain continent. You have been saving the world non-stop. Have you prepared to transcend the tribulation? Alas! Xiaohua sighed and shook his head, saying, This Xiao doesn't have the time. Master Zhao's mercy is unparalleled in the world. Yi Zhan said with emotion, If Master Xiao can't transcend the tribulation, who can? Old Man Guqiong also said sincerely, Since Master Xiao isn't prepared, it's useless to make any preparations now. However, this junior sees that Master Xiao has a few good spiritual artifacts. If you can't transcend the tribulation, you can discard them to save your life. Hihi. Thank you for your reminder. Xiaohua's interest was greatly reduced when he saw that these supreme beings only said that they wouldn't practice and didn't take out any spiritual artifacts. He said with a smile, This Xiao will go and set up the formation. I'm afraid that it will attract the thunder tribulation. Please be careful. Master Xiao, be careful. Everyone replied. Immortal Emperor Go-chan asked again, Taoist, what do you need me to do? Let Xie Xian set up the formation. That's a strategy to lure the enemy. Xiaohua thought for a moment and said, Your Majesty, you only need to observe the situation of the hidden immortal continent. If you discover any abnormalities, inform me in time. Okay. Thank you, Taoist. Immortal Emperor Go-chan pulled the Eastern Sea Empress down from the golden throne and said, This emperor will hold the formation for you all. The supreme beings followed Immortal Emperor Go-chan out of the earth, fire, wind, and lightning. Below them was the mountains and rivers of the hidden immortal continent. Seeing the beautiful land, Xiaohua smiled. This was the place where the human race rested. It didn't only belong to the Confucian cultivators, but also the human race. How could he not care? Xiaohua retracted his gaze and opened his mouth. Buzz! With a rumbling sound, the 9 provinces' cauldrons fell into the sky. Xiaohua pointed at the cauldrons and said, Scholar Palace Master, you are the orthodox Confucian cultivator. Your Yuzhou cauldron is the center of the 9 provinces' great array. Okay. When Chu Chan spat out a mouthful of true qi into the Yuzhou cauldron. Then, he activated his body and flew away with the Yuzhou cauldron. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, donate, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 52-51. Under Xiaohua's orders, Lightning Reverend took Jing Province cauldron and headed to Jing Province. Feng Wu took Liang Province Cauldron and headed to Liang Province. Taoist Wu took Ji Province Cauldron and tore the void to Ji Province. Reverend Yun swallowed Su Province Cauldron and left while shaking his head and wagging his tail. Celestial and Huang Tong took Yang Province Cauldron and Yong Province Cauldron and left respectively. Finally, Xiao Hua waved his Taoist robe and was about to leave with the Yan Province Cauldron and Qing Province Cauldron. In the distance, Immortal Emperor Gaochen hurriedly flew over and said, "My dear minister, I have something to say." Xiao Hua smiled and said, "Your Majesty, do you think we can't lay down the 9-province grand formation?" Immortal Emperor Gaochen hesitated for a moment and finally nodded. "Yes, I'm not worried about you or the Master of Literature Palace. I'm worried about the other immortals, the demon race or the dragon race. Oh, that 5-clawed golden dragon of the dragon race might be able to activate Su Province Cauldron, but even a great saint of the demon race might not be able to activate Yong Province Cauldron, right? Oh, also, do you want to lay down both Qing Province Cauldron and Gun Province Cauldron?" Xiao Hua's words were really shocking. He smiled and said, "The Qing Province Cauldron is laid down by Maitreya Buddha." Immortal Emperor Gaochen almost fell from the sky. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry and said, "My dear minister, Maitreya Buddha is the future Buddha of Thunder Temple. How can he activate the Qing Province Cauldron? He even wants to help us lay down the 9-province grand formation? How about I send a decree to the Master of 3 Purity Palace and the Masters of Dongfang, Nangong, Shimen and Dark North clans to come and help?" Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, "Your Majesty, you can ask the Master of 3 Purity Palace about this. This is the last time I'm working for the people of Hidden Immortal Continent. If your Majesty doesn't allow it, then forget it." No. Immortal Emperor Gaochen hurriedly waved his hand and said, "That's not what I meant. I'm just afraid that if you fail to lay down the formation, you will be devoured by the 9-province cauldron. Your Majesty doesn't need to worry about this." Xiao Hua replied, "We've already discussed it earlier and felt that it was feasible, so we came together. Otherwise, Phoenix Saint and the others wouldn't have come to the Immortal Palace and would have directly returned to the Great Sage Hall. The number 1 Great Saint of the Demon Race has become the Phoenix Sage." Immortal Emperor Go-chan sighed and nodded. "If that's the case, I'll have to trouble you, Master Xiao Lei." Xiao Hua meaningfully looked at Immortal Emperor Go-chan and said, "Your Majesty, the current 4 continents are no longer the 3 continents of the past. The order of the 4 continents is gradually forming. During such a great storm, I hope that your Majesty will prioritize the legacy of the human race and not create any more wars. You invited the Alliance Masters of the Tao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance to the Immortal Palace, and you even asked the Alliance Master of the Tao Alliance to take action." Immortal Emperor Go-chan replied thoughtfully, "Moreover, I was imprisoned by Xia Xian, so I know how difficult it is to be separated from one's family. So, my dear minister, don't worry. Unless I have no other choice, I will not take the initiative to start a war." "Good." Xiao Hua clapped his hands and said, "Since your Majesty has such intentions, I's trip will not be in vain." Having said that, Xiao Hua didn't say anything else. Lightning surged around his body as he stepped into the void. Xiao Hua stepped out of the void and released his divine intent. He had already sensed Wen Chu's divine intent, so he immediately used the twin spirit binding technique to connect with Feng Wu's group. Xiao Hua's group had used this secret technique countless times in the myriad demon realm. Today they were able to use it again with ease. Since he was ready, Xiao Hua activated the Kunlun mirror in his hand. From the pillar of light, Maitreya Buddha stepped out of the void. Just as the Maitreya Buddha and the world-honored one stood on the hidden immortal continent, a huge whistling sound of wind sounded from all over the 3 continents. Above the earth and above the 4 seas, the Buddha's light was everywhere. The Buddha's light condensed into lotuses, and countless lotuses were connected together. It was as if a huge lotus had enveloped the entire 3 continents. Amidst this overwhelming lotus, a strange fragrance gradually spread. Maitreya Buddha chanted, "Namo Maitreya Buddha, I don't have much time left." Having said that, Maitreya Buddha stepped into the void. However, just as the void was torn apart, the river of faith immediately flowed out from the void and stopped Maitreya Buddha. "World Sovereign is setting up a formation here. I will go." Xiao Hua didn't dare to be careless. He left the cauldron behind and swallowed it before escaping into the void. Fortunately, the immortal energy around Xiaohua's body had reached its limit and stopped his Bodhisattva Buddha fruit. The river of faith didn't appear in the void. Xiaohua flew to the sky above Qing province and sent out the cauldron. He blew a breath of Xiantian qi into it, and the cauldron expanded to several thousand feet in size. It emitted a buzzing sound as it spun rapidly in the air. When it reached a certain place, it stopped. Thousands of inscriptions appeared on the surface of the cauldron. These inscriptions turned into images of mountains and rivers, and they began to spin rapidly. In just a moment, these images covered the entire sky above Qing province. Roar! At this time in Qing province, a deafening sound like a dragon's roar broke through the sky. Xiaohua's Dharma, I could clearly see that a gigantic dragon-like Confucian qi began to swim in the depths of the earth. Buzz! The cauldron violently vibrated again. The nearby images were attracted by the providence of the earth, and also turned into dragon images that surged around the cauldron. Roar, roar, roar! A total of 8 dragon roars resounded in the other 8 provinces of the hidden immortal continent. When the providence of the Confucian cultivators appeared, the cauldron emitted a golden light. Boom! The golden light rushed up and pierced the sky. Looking at the entire hidden immortal continent, the 9 huge golden light pillars of the 9 provinces' cauldrons all rushed into the sky like pillars of heaven. Seeing the light pillars appear, the 3 purities palace master and the others all had a dignified expression. This was because the last time they set up the formation, they failed because the 9 ninth level Confucian cultivators couldn't attack at the same time. Xiaohua and his clones weren't afraid that they couldn't work together, but when Chu roared in his heart, "Release!" Boom! The 9 light pillars reversed at the same time, and turned into 9 golden nails that directly pierced into the ground of the hidden immortal continent. The entire hidden immortal continent violently shook. The providences of the Confucian cultivators on the ground were instantly nailed to death. Fall! When Chu roared again, the 9 cauldrons fell down at the same time. When the 9 cauldrons touched the ground, the earth seemed to be transparent without any resistance and instantly penetrated it. Woo! Between the heaven and earth, the strange wind whistled again. After the heaven and earth flashed 9 times, an indescribable spatial fluctuation appeared in the void, even the firmament and the earth. The 9 providences of the 9 provinces borrowed the power of the 9 cauldrons to form the 9 provinces' grand formation. The providences of the Confucian cultivators on the hidden immortal continent were completed. Layers of 9 colored lights rushed into the sky along with the fluctuations and gradually converged towards the immortal palaces. The earth was bright and the sky was filled with multicolored lights. Dragons and phoenixes were auspicious. The sacred images of the Confucians all appeared and chants filled the heaven and earth. Good. Immortal Emperor Go-chan was the place where the providences of all the Confucian cultivators in the world gathered. Seeing the providences around his body like dragons and becoming several times clearer, how could he not know that the 9 provinces' grand formation was completed? He couldn't help but clap his hands in praise. Unfortunately, before Immortal Emperor Go-chen's voice could be heard, the Buddhist light on the hidden immortal continent that had dimmed due to the Confucian cultivators' providence shone brightly again. Moreover, the lotus formed by the Buddhist light was several times larger than before. Namo Maitreya Buddha! Namo Maitreya Buddha! Namo Maitreya Buddha! Countless Buddhist chants appeared in the void. Tens of thousands of heavenly dragons, heavenly maidens, and heavenly flowers began to appear along with the sound of wooden fish. The chants of the Buddhas were like the sounds of nature. Countless Buddhist lotuses covered the 3 continents and even spread towards the Yilin continent. Namo Amitabha Buddha! Namo Amitabha Buddha! More chants resounded from the south. The huge thunderclap temple emitted a Buddhist light in the sky. Countless images of the thunderclap temple began to appear in the world. Namo Maitreya Buddha! The Maitreya Buddha chanted and revealed his golden avatar. The moment this avatar appeared, strange phenomena immediately appeared in the surroundings. Rumble! The river of faith from before suddenly turned into a monstrous torrent that gushed out from the 3 continents. The Buddhist lotuses fell into this torrent of faith and rushed towards the golden avatar of the Maitreya Buddha. Within a radius of several 100,000 miles to the left of the Maitreya Buddha, lights and shadows distorted and the void cracked. Countless streams of faith seeped out and merged with the previous torrent of faith, and fell into the light of the golden avatar of the Buddha. Boom, boom, boom. In the sky above the Pure Land, the sound of explosions rang out. The dome of heaven collapsed, and all the light and shadows were distorted. A rich fragrance and a Buddhist light that was as thin as a breeze slowly seeped out. Namo Amitabha Buddha. In front of the Thunderclap Temple, 2 Buddha lords, 2 bodhisattvas, and many other Buddhas clasped their palms together and chanted Buddhist chants. The little exquisite temple's Buddhas also stood in front of the Thunderclap Temple. Although they were different from the Thunderclap Temple's Buddhas, they still chanted Buddhist chants. Namo Amitabha Buddha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha asked in a low voice. World Lord, what do you think of the situation? Namo Amitabha Buddha. The Mahavairakana Buddha World Lord's face was expressionless as he said, I don't dare to speak recklessly. However, the Maitreya Buddha World Lord has the merit of saving the world and the merit of the hidden immortal continent's Confucian cultivators. With the protection of these merits, there shouldn't be any problems. The Buddha Kingdom's heavenly gate will definitely open. As for the most difficult part, how will the Maitreya Buddha World Lord step into the heavenly gate? As he spoke, the Buddhist lotuses all over the 3 continents bloomed. Within each blossoming Buddhist lotus, swastikas flew out. After these swastikas flew out, they all soared into the sky and flew towards the Thunderclap Temple. When hundreds of millions of swastikas had surged into the sky, they formed a golden radiance that was even more majestic than the flood of faith. Boom! As the golden radiance soared into the sky, a booming sound that sounded like the heavens and earth groaned resounded. At the place where the golden radiance landed, an even larger swastika gradually formed. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Chidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, donate it, and thank you for all forms of support. http://www. Chidian. Combook 10041444972. ASPX King of Order Introduction 1. A divine artifact descended from the heavens, with a strange artifact spirit hidden within. An ordinary student, Suji, turned something rotten into something magical. Roaming the mortal cities. Introduction 2. My name is Suji. On the surface, I am the CEO of the Order Company. In reality, I have a divine artifact within my body. I am a cultivator who cultivates by maintaining the order of the heavens. I am the future enforcer of the immortal world. I am the king of order of the solar star zone. Xiao Duan Tanhua City's new book has been completed. It is the first Xianxiao novel of 16 million words. The Legend of the Cultivation God. Readers who are interested in the development of Xiao Duan Tanhua's new book can join the public WeChat account, Xiao Duan Tanhua, or join the QQ group to discuss the plot. Chapter 5252. Namo Maitreya Buddha. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Namo Dipankara Archaic Buddha. Sincerity appeared on the faces of all the Buddhas, knowing that the heavenly gates of the Buddhist kingdom were about to open. However, at this crucial moment, boom, boom, boom. Another earth-shattering boom resounded above the 1,000 demons' sacred realm to the north of the 3 continents. Those from the Immortal Palace, Thunder Temple, Heaven Alliance, and Tao Alliance were all shocked. They hurriedly shifted their gazes from the Pure Land world to the 1,000 demons' sacred realm. Although the space was extremely far away, they could still see it clearly. The sky in the north cracked inch by inch, and starlight seeped out from the cracks. Woo! At this moment, the Great Sage Hall also appeared from the void. The Great Sage Hall's starlight was resplendent, and it continuously spread in all directions like waves. In the blink of an eye, 3 Great Sage Hall silhouettes emerged from the starlight. Wung! Wung! 3 ear-piercing sounds broke through the air at the same time. The 3 silhouettes turned into morning stars, and under the illumination, rushed into the cracked sky. Rumble! Loud noises and starry flames appeared one after another in the cracked sky like the end of the world. The seemingly boundless northern sky seemed to have been wiped away by 3 giant hands. The fragments fell, revealing 3 completely different starry skies. The smallest starry sky was pure. It was only the size of a fist, and it looked abnormally radiant. The starry sky near this star was distorted, and a pitch-black radiance mixed with grayish-white radiance would occasionally appear. Beside this starry sky, There was another starry sky close to 1,000 times larger than this one. Within this starry sky, countless stars shone brightly, and every star had star runes that were distorted. These distortions were a little strange. Looking at it with the naked eye, it seemed as if every crease contained the radiance of the sun and moon. However, the radiance was obscured by the stars. The last starry sky looked similar to the starry sky beside it, but it couldn't be considered a starry sky. This was because there were no stars, sun, or moon in this space. There were only tens of thousands of birds and beasts, and their bodies flickered with starlight as they roared crazily. Following their roars, the space also distorted, and a faint blood-red color shrouded the surroundings. Shattering the void? Immortal Emperor Gaochen was the first to exclaim. Why are three great sages about to shatter the void? How is this possible? However, before Immortal Emperor Gaochen could finish his sentence, rumble! Another explosion occurred in the sky, and it immediately attracted everyone's attention. Everyone couldn't help but look towards the source of the explosion. Wasn't it coming from the northwest of the three continents? Earth, fire, wind, and lightning surged out like the heavens were collapsing, enveloping the space within 1,000,000 miles. Along with the devastation of the earth, fire, wind, and lightning, the horizon gradually evaporated. The normal color disappeared and turned into a pure golden color. As soon as this golden color was formed, it gradually divided into several eye-catching layers. Roar! Countless dragon roars resounded from the northern sea. Within the flickering light, the mysterious dragon island revealed itself. Swish! The dragon-like shadow above the dragon island rushed out amidst the roar of 10,000 dragons, and directly collided with the wave-like golden light. Boom! A blurry pupil of at least 1,000 zhang 333 m per zhang was revealed in the golden light. Heaven's eyes! Immortal Emperor Gaochen was shocked again and shouted, This is the legendary Heaven's Eye that the dragon race used to ascend to the dragon realm? How is this possible? Not to mention Immortal Emperor Gaochen, even the Mahavajrana revered Buddha couldn't help but keep his calm. Looking at the closed eye in the distance, he exclaimed, Is this Taoist Yun's ascension tribulation? I haven't seen a dragon ascending to the dragon realm in such a manner for a long time. Before the Dipankara archaic Buddha revered Buddha could say anything, rumble! A solid shadow above the dragon island crashed into the other side of the earth, fire, wind, and lightning like a meteor. Boom! Like a bolt from the blue, far away from the blurry heaven's eye. A clear golden eye with the size of 100,000 miles was formed once again. I understand now. Immortal Emperor Gaochen shouted. This is Taoist Yun's heaven's eye. If I'm not mistaken, the previous one should be Grand Elder Aogia's. As soon as the three ascension phenomena appeared, buzz! A low buzzing sound began to resound between the heavens and the earth. A faint yet unparalleled confinement of the heavens and the earth began to spread toward the three continents. This is bad. Aoe and the other dragons on the Dragon Island, Immortal Emperor Gaochen and the other Confucian cultivators in the Immortal Palace, and Mahavajrana of the Thunder Temple and the other Buddhist disciples all exclaimed in unison upon seeing this. After all, there was only one ascension previously. How could there be three ascensions now? The dragon race, the demon race, and the Buddhist disciples were all undergoing their tribulations at the same time? This was absolutely unprecedented, and would never be replicated in the future. Moreover, these three different ascensions would definitely interfere with each other. As expected, when the restrictions of the heavens and the earth collided with each other, they formed a sealing wave that sealed the 1,000 demons' sacred grounds, the blessed land world, and the North Sea. Even the hidden immortal continent, the East Sea, and the South Sea were affected. On the hidden immortal continent, Xiaohua and the others were both happy and worried. As soon as they laid down the 9 provinces' grand formation, the Maitreya Buddha revered Buddha activated the heavenly gate of the Buddhism sect. As the 9 exalts were originally one, Fengwu, Huangtong, and Taoist Yun immediately sensed their ascension tribulation. Everyone. Seeing that the 3 continents were about to be sealed, Xiaohua hurriedly said in his heart, Let's try our best to separate. We'll meet again in the upper realm. All right. His clones did not dare to delay and responded. The Maitreya Buddha revered Buddha wanted to go to the blessed land world. But how could he enter the void at this time? Seeing that he could not tear it apart, he could only teleport to the Thunder Temple. Feng Wu and Huang Tong teleported to the Thousand Demons' sacred grounds at the same time. After arriving, they went to different places. Taoist Yun naturally flew to the Dragon Island, unlike the two great saints of the demon race. Fellow immortal, you don't have to go too far. Xiaohua said to Wen Chu with a smile. This is the hidden immortal continent of the Confucian cultivators. We'll avoid it. Boom boom boom. As soon as Xiaohua's voice fell, he saw that in the sky above the hidden immortal continent, there was a crack formed by 4 types of lightning. The 5-chi righteous lightning was like a heavenly river pouring down. However, this 5-chi righteous lightning had only fallen for a few hundred li before it stopped again. It turned into a monstrous lightning tide, covering 1,000,000 li. Within the 5-chi righteous lightning, hundreds of millions of mighty pillars of energy fell down. The 5-colored light also covered the horizon. The huge scroll that was 1,000 zhang long, together with the sword light, began to condense within the 5-chi righteous lightning. A kind of vast and supreme aura leaked out from the scroll, enveloping the entire hidden immortal continent. The book gate appears, the clouds rise. Immortal Emperor Gaochen laughed and said, I knew it. How could the master of the literature Star Palace be willing to fall behind others? Boom, boom, boom. Just as Immortal Emperor Gaochen's smile appeared, another wave of 5-chi righteous thunders and clouds fell down and condensed into a scroll that was tens of thousands of feet long in another square. Ah? Immortal Emperor Gaochen was startled. Who else triggered the heavenly gate? Your Majesty! Not far away, the master of the Supreme Purity Palace was surrounded by clouds. The fragrance of books came out of his body. He flew forward and bowed. I didn't expect to trigger the book gate today. I'm afraid it was also the work of the master of the literature Star Palace. Today I bid farewell to your Majesty. Please take care of yourself. Good. Immortal Emperor Gaochen clapped his hands and said, The master of the Supreme Purity Palace has gotten rid of the knot in his heart and can finally step into the heavenly court. Congratulations. The master of the Supreme Purity Palace smiled and said, However, I just triggered the heavenly gate. I don't know if I can step on the clouds to go up. Your Majesty, you congratulate me too early. With that, the master of the Supreme Purity Palace moved his body and landed on the vast land. When he saw Wen Chu, he said respectfully, Thank you, master of the literature Star Palace. Who knew that Wen Chu's face was solemn, and he warned, The 9 provinces grand array has just been completed and you are not prepared. This is not good for you. The immortal array is broken and the heaven and earth are changing. How can I be the only one to react hastily? The master of the Supreme Purity Palace smiled and said, Sooner or later, I will have to take this step. The earlier I leave, the earlier I can finish this. Wen Chu was startled and said anxiously, My Confucian cultivator has a saying that opportunities are left for those who are prepared. You have been accumulating power for 10,000 years for today. However, this book gate came too suddenly, so you don't have to belittle yourself. Yes, I know. The master of the Supreme Purity Palace raised his head and looked at Wen Chu's huge book in the distance. He smiled and said, The master of the literature Star Palace must also be careful. We will meet again in the heavenly court. It's a deal. Wen Chu cupped his hands. The two of them, one in the south and one in the north, stood at the two ends of the hidden immortal continent. They raised their heads and looked at the blue dome of heaven, waiting for the tribulation to descend. All his clones triggered the ascension tribulation. Xiaohua was happy at first, but as the signs of the heavenly tribulation appeared, his heart became heavier and heavier. An indescribable fear emerged from all over his body, pressuring him to the point that he couldn't breathe. This feeling was like several sharp swords piercing deeply into his body. It was as painful as death by 1,000 cuts. This feeling was as if the heaven and earth were closed and there was no way out. Since this was the case, how could Xiaohua not know that if his ascension tribulation descended, it would be even more powerful? Similar to the helplessness of drowning, Xiaohua urged the Thunderbolt Immortal to fly as far as possible in order to avoid the influence of the ascension tribulation on his clones. Speaking of which, it was quite strange. The heaven and earth seal had already sealed the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. The Pure Land world, the Northern Sea, and the Southern Sea. Whether it was immortal Emperor Go-chan or the Mahavarakana revered Buddha, their divine abilities were all sealed. Even their bodies were slowly falling down, unable to bear the burden. However, as the main characters of today, Xiaohua and the Thunderbolt Immortal were able to handle this seal with ease. With teleportation, they quickly left the hidden immortal continent and flew towards the Western Sea. Just as Xiaohua and the Thunderbolt Immortal started flying, the Yilan continent and the Dawn Rain continent were above the Western Sea. Boundless tribulation clouds poured down like a mountain torrent. In the high sky, layers upon layers took shape. Some were like mountain peaks, some were like ocean waves. Moreover, as the tribulation clouds surged, all sorts of phenomena grew. The sun and the moon seemed to be moving, and the stars were shining brilliantly. Following the changes of the sun, the moon, and the stars, an indescribable suffocation suddenly covered the earth and majestically fell down. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark and reward. Thank you for all forms of support. Wish all fellow Taoists a happy National Day holiday. Let's promote the new book. http://www. Qidian. Combook 10041444972. ASPX King of Order Introduction 1. A divine artifact descended from the heavens, hiding a strange artifact spirit. An ordinary student, Suji, turned something rotten into something magical, moving unhindered in the mortal cities. Introduction 2. My name is Suji. On the surface, I am the CEO of the Order Corporation. In reality, I have a divine artifact in my body. I am a cultivator who cultivates by maintaining the order of the heavenly Tao. I am the future enforcer of the immortal world. I am the king of order of the solar star field. Xiao Duan Tanhua City's new book has already finished writing the first Xianxia novel with 16 million words, The Story of the Cultivation God. Readers who are concerned about the development of Xiao Duan Tanhua's new book can join the public WeChat account, Xiao Duan Tanhua, or join the QQ group to discuss the plot. 116565446, 1705713, 64. Chapter 52-53. Xiaohua and the Thunder Immortal were used to the formation of tribulation clouds, so they weren't particularly surprised. They just waited for the gate to appear behind the tribulation clouds. However, just as Xiaohua, the Thunder Immortal, the celestial being, and Taoist which flew into the West Sea, the world suddenly fell into darkness. The darkness came so fiercely that all the creatures in the 4 great continents were at a loss. The darkness came from the Yilan continent, the Xiaoyu continent, and even the sky above the West Sea. The darkness was extremely dense, as if the world had not been opened yet. Although the book gate on the hidden immortal continent shone with 1,000 feet of light, the heavenly gate on the pure land world shone brightly, the starry sky above the 1,000 demons' sacred realm shone brightly, and the heavenly eye on the North Sea shone brightly. All these signs seemed so powerless in the darkness, and their brilliance quickly dimmed. As soon as the darkness formed, a wave of silent desolation, loneliness, and fear arose in the hearts of the millions of creatures in the 4 great continents. The birds and beasts prostrated, the grass and trees trembled, and the heavenly might was unparalleled. Fellow Taoist. At this moment, Taoist which suddenly transmitted his voice in his mind, I have a bad feeling. This darkness is like the power of ghosts and gods, and it contains the aura of the 12 gods of soul cultivation. Xiaohua squinted his eyes and looked at the sky, replying in his mind, That's right. This aura is extremely faint and obscure, and the power of this aura is far stronger than the other ascension tribulations. If I'm not wrong, this should be your ascension tribulation. That's strange. Taoist which was puzzled and replied, Why didn't I sense anything? The ignorant are fearless. The celestial being gloated. Before the celestial being's voice fell, a strange figure appeared from the darkness. This figure had a human head and a dragon body. Wasn't it the appearance of the 13th god of soul cultivation in the sealed space? The 13th god? Xiaohua and Taoist which were dumbfounded. What? The celestial being loved to join in the fun and exclaimed, The 13th god? Where is he? The Thunder Immortal was also confused and looked at the direction of Xiaohua and Taoist witch's gazes. Penguax. The voice of the Thunder Immortal appeared in the hearts of all the clones. I can't see the 13th god, but I can feel the aura of Penguax. This aura is billions of times more solid than I's Penguax. Xiaohua and Daoist which came to a realization at the same time. They were probably the only ones who could see the figures of the 13 great gods. It was not only because they were soul cultivators, but also because they had reached the third heaven beyond the heavens. Damn it! Daoist sorcerer cursed under his breath. He did not expect that his tribulation of ascension would come so suddenly. Asterisk swoosh. Asterisk right at this moment, a beam of light suddenly appeared. Xiaohua and Daoist sorcerer could see it clearly, while Reverend Yun could sense it clearly. It was the 13 earth gods who had split the darkness apart with the Penguax. Congratulations, fellow Daoist, the heavens and earth have split open. Xiaohua smiled as he looked at the 13th great god. Towards the witch world's ascension passage. However, before Xiaohua could finish his words, the first beam of light, which seemed to be the beginning of the world, fell on the sky above the 4 continents. Asterisk boom. Asterisk the void faded away, and a deep rumbling sound like the sound of a wooden fish was heard. Mount Meru, which was previously hidden in the void, revealed its majestic and vast shape. As soon as Mount Meru was revealed, asterisk rumble. Asterisk a thick and incomparable thunderbolt came out of nowhere and streaked across the darkness, blocking the beam of light. Then, asterisk boom boom boom. Asterisk in the darkness, hundreds of millions of thunderbolts struck down crazily, shattering the darkness into pieces. The lightning bolts were like flowers, and the lightning bolts were like dragons, wreaking havoc on the Yilin continent. Amidst the thunderbolts, the figure of the 13th great god and the aura of the Penguax were swept away. A kind of heaviness appeared out of nowhere, pressing straight towards Xiaohua and Reverend Yun Lei. Phew! Daoist sorcerer heaved a long sigh of relief, not knowing whether he was glad or regretful. He whispered in his mind, like I said, I didn't sense any ascension tribulation at all. This is the ascension tribulation of 2 fellow Daoists. There's something strange about this. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and said, there's clearly the aura of the witch realm, and there's clearly the 13th great god of soul cultivation creating heaven and earth. Why did it change to Dao cultivation's thunderbolt in the end? Only you and I can see such a phenomenon. Daoist sorcerer shrugged and urged his figure to continue forward. He said, billions of cultivators in the 4 continents can't see it. Who would believe you if you told them? Besides, this is the ascension tribulation. Perhaps it's just like this. Fellow Daoist, take care. Daoist sorcerer's voice became softer and softer, and the power of heaven and earth became stronger and stronger. Xiaohua's connection with his clones also became weaker and weaker. Xiaohua hurriedly checked the space. Fortunately, although it was the ascension tribulation, the space could still sense that there were no special changes in the Shenhua continent where Princess Qingqing and Princess Zixia were. With a thought, Xiaohua asked the Reverend Yun Lei to take the ocean overturning seal, soaring dragon shears, and other Dharma treasures. He looked at the sky again. Although it was already bright, the tribulation clouds were still there. The lightning completely dyed the western horizon. However, if one looked carefully, there were still some differences between the lightning. In the Yilin continent, the lightning was mostly round like 100 blooming flowers. In the North Sea, the lightning was mostly ribbon-shaped like a dragon bearing its fangs and brandishing its claws. These 2 lightning covered an area of 1,000,000 miles, and their momentum was very close. After the time it took to eat a meal, the sound of thunder didn't show any signs of weakening. Instead, it became even louder. The entire sky seemed to have been shattered by 2 lightning hands. The will of heaven and earth that originally covered the Yilin continent and the West Sea had rapidly spread to the Thousand Demon Sacred Realm, the North Sea, and the South Sea. It was connected with the fluctuations of the seal of heaven and earth from before. Buzz! With just a tremor in space, the entire 4 great continents was covered by the strange phenomenon of the Ascension Tribulation. Because of the sudden appearance of darkness, the various strange phenomena in the 4 great continents were dimmed and colorless. Now the unparalleled power of heaven and earth fell down from the sky. Even people as strong as immortal Emperor Gaochen, Vairocana revered Buddha, and the scarlet flame vermilion bird couldn't stand in the sky. One by one, they fell to the mortal world. Somewhere in the Dawn Rain continent, a faint sacred light was burning. Zhang Jie's face was calm as he looked at the strange realm. He muttered to himself, "He is finally going. Thank you, Sacred Lord. I wonder what his future will be like." However, since he has the Namo Merciful Great Guanyin Bodhisattva Buddha fruit, he probably won't kill too many people. Fellow Taoists are really powerful. I have never heard of a realm having so many cultivators going through a tribulation at the same time. I have also never heard of an ascension tribulation covering an entire realm. At this point, Zhang Jie's expression suddenly changed. He looked at a place far to the south with extreme disgust and asked in confusion, "Huh? Why is he here? Could this be a part of the ascension tribulation in the 4 great continents?" With that, Zhang Jie didn't hesitate and flapped his wings. Although it was a bit difficult, he still quickly left and flew towards the north. It was as if he didn't want to see the person who came. Zhang Jie had only flown 1,000,000 miles when the lightning in the sky exploded again. Countless balls of lightning flashed and emitted a 5-colored brilliance. In an instant, all the spirit energy of the 5 elements on the Yilin continent went berserk. At the same time, above the Western Sea, the flashing lights became colorful. The entire Western Sea was surging with waves. Endless water-type spirit energy went against the heavens and poured into the void. Sigh. Seeing the lightning that had just appeared, the heavenly tribulations all around responded at the same time. The 4 great continents shook at the same time. The sealing power was unprecedented. Zhang Jie smiled wryly and stopped. He quickly landed on a peak and said helplessly, "What kind of ascension is this?" Not only did it alarm the entire world, even I, a 2-winged angel, was imprisoned. Just as Zhang Jie's voice fell, in a place extremely far away, near the Million Meng Mountains, Bai Fei walked out of a cave with difficulty. He raised his head and looked at the boundless lightning in the sky, and the pressure that made people prostrate on the ground. He couldn't help but gnash his teeth and say, "Is this his ascension tribulation? Why is there such a huge commotion? Could it be that I will never be able to catch up to him in this lifetime?" Master. Even though Xiaoya was hiding in a place, she couldn't resist the power of the heavenly tribulation. She could only answer with a trembling voice. Such a huge ascension tribulation, heavenly tribulation might, naturally. "Did I ask you to answer?" Bai Fei suddenly roared and shouted, "Do you think I don't know? In this Dawn Rain continent, I'm afraid that he is the only one who can ascension tribulation. If this ascension tribulation doesn't belong to him, then who does it belong to?" Xiaoya didn't say anything. However, after a while, she said in a low voice, "Master, don't be anxious. You have your own reliance in your own opportunities. Sooner or later, you will be like Taoist Xiao." "Shut up," Bai Fei said angrily. "Don't mention his name in front of me again. What reliance? What opportunity? Didn't you see it? That spiritual item. He didn't even look at it and threw it in front of me like it was trash. How can I catch up with him?" "Master." When Xiaoyu heard this, she couldn't help but remind him, "There's one more thing that this servant wants to tell Master. The effect of the spirit item seems to be not as good as before." According to this servant's thoughts, could it be that Taoist Master Xiao did something to it? "I've already said it." Bai Fei's face turned ferocious as he shouted, "Don't mention his name in front of me." Xiaoya didn't say anything. After a while, Bai Fei said in a low voice, "This matter should have nothing to do with him. The spiritual item was only in his hands for a few breaths, and he immediately returned it to me. The disdain he had when he returned it to me was engraved in my heart. He didn't have the time, and he didn't have the ability to do anything to such a heaven-defying item. The reason why the spirit item is gradually losing its effectiveness should be because I haven't truly refined it successfully." "Yes, this servant understands," Xiaoyu hurriedly replied. "This servant will observe it further and report it to Master at any time. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support it. Vote a monthly vote, vote a recommendation vote, bookmark, gift, and thank you for all forms of support. http://www. Qidian. Combook 10041444972. ASPX King of Order Introduction 1. A divine artifact descended from the heavens. hiding a strange artifact spirit. Ordinary student Suji turned something rotten into something magical, moving unhindered in the mortal city. Introduction to My name is Suji. On the surface, I am the CEO of the Order Company, but in reality, I have a divine artifact in my body. I am a cultivator who cultivates by maintaining the order of the heavens. I am the future enforcer of the immortal world. I am the king of order of the sun-star field. Xiao Duan Tanhua City's new book has already finished writing the first Xinxia novel with 16 million words. Readers who are interested in the development of Xiao Duan Tanhua's new book can join the public WeChat account, Xiao Duan Tanhua, or join the QQ group to discuss the plot. 116-565446, 170-5713, 64. Chapter 52-54. Xiaoye, it's been hard on you. Bai Fei squeezed out a smile and comforted her. He then looked into the distance and said in a low voice, Humph, I'm afraid I won't be able to compete with you on the Dawn Rain continent. But just you wait. I'll definitely go to the immortal world to find you. As for here, I'll take good care of your fortune gate, Wuqing, and the others. With that, Bai Fei no longer looked at the phenomenon in the sky and turned to return to the cave. Master. Xiaoye was anxious and reminded. When a cultivator goes through a tribulation, the gate to the immortal world will open, and endless profundities will be born. Even if Master can't comprehend them now, but going through a tribulation is still a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I don't want to receive any favor from him. Bai Fei's footsteps were firm. I want to rely on my own strength to fight the heavens, the earth, and him. Xiaoye was speechless again. Oh my God. At the same time, in the extreme north of the Thousand Demons' Holy Land, a tall figure slowly walked out from a dark corner. The force that had sealed the ground didn't seem to exist in this figure's eyes. With the help of the bright starlight, this figure's appearance was revealed. Wasn't this the Grand Mist Ancestor? At this time, the Grand Mist Ancestor's face was filled with shock as he looked at the phenomenon in the sky. He cried out, What kind of heavenly tribulation is this? What kind of world is this? How can it have such a powerful force? I didn't feel anything special about this world before. However, in just a short moment, the Grand Mist Ancestor's face changed greatly and he sneered. I was wondering who it was, so it's them. They really deserve to die. How dare they kill my 100 million boy? How can I not take revenge for this kind of great enmity? With that said, the Grand Mist Ancestor tried to fly up, but unfortunately, in the seal of heaven and earth, his flight was like a snail's. Humph! The Grand Mist Ancestor snorted coldly, and his body slowly transformed into the shape of a world-exterminating mayfly. As soon as the world-exterminating mayfly was formed, pa! Cracks appeared all over its body. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Damn it! The world-destruction mayfly cursed as it reverted back to its human form. With a sway of its body, it charged toward the great sacred hall much faster than before. Some wanted to stop Xiaohua and his avatar from transcending the tribulation, while others prayed for their smooth ascension. On the Daybreak Rain continent, in the myriad thunder valley of the Imperial Thunder Sect, Zhuahanggu and the others had already flown out. They sat cross-legged outside the cave and prayed sincerely while facing the lightning. Fairy Xianhua, Reverend Lei Meng and the others also flew out of the cave. Ignoring their own cultivation base, they looked up at the sky. Millions of cultivators and hundreds of millions of common people seemed to have a telepathic connection. They knelt on the ground and kowtowed while chanting Reverend Zhao's name. If the Xiaoyu continent was like this, how could the Yilin continent be different? The hidden immortal continent, the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, and the pure land world were the 3 rivers and 4 seas. How could those beings who had received Xiaohua's grace abandon their own conscience before the seal of heaven and earth? Although they knew that they were weak by themselves, the faith in their hearts was tenacious. Strands of faith converged into streams, converged into rivers, converged into a river, converged into a river, and finally converged into an ocean. It was vast and boundless, and it resisted the ruthless might of heaven and earth and the crystal-like godhood behind Xiaohua's head. The lightning was divided into 5 colors, and heaven and earth were divided into the 5 elements. In an instant, Xiaohua felt that heaven and earth were insignificant, and the might of heaven was vast. An indescribable feeling of inferiority rose from the bottom of his heart. He didn't know if this was the effect of the ascension tribulation, or the change in his state of mind, but it made him feel incomparably helpless. At this moment, the tiny power of faith that was as small as an ant entered his heart and gradually warmed it up. In the end, millions of different kinds of encouragement and piety turned into a torrent that lifted his heart up. Xiaohua's face was instantly covered in tears. He groaned from the bottom of his heart. "O heavenly Tao, did I save them or did they make me? Who can clearly explain the cause and effect of heaven and earth?" Boom, boom, boom. Another half an hour passed, and in the sky filled with lightning, an earth-shaking rumble was heard once again. The lightning above the Yilan continent was condensed like stars, and speckles filled the sky. The might of each speckles penetrated the space and fell in the sky near the thunderbolt immortal. All of them had the power to destroy heaven and earth. The lightning above the West Sea was mottled, and it was like crisscrossing paths that completely covered the sky. Under each streak of light, there was a silk-like grayish-white color. This grayish-white color also penetrated the space and fell in the West Sea, sealing the space where Xiaohua was. Each streak of grayish-white color contained the power to overturn mountains and overturn seas. Immortal. Gate of the immortal world. Old Man Guqiong and Bright Moon Householder, who were on the hidden immortal continent, shouted at the same time. How is this possible? There are two completely different gates of the immortal world? Above the Yilan continent, a five-colored sphere, which looked like a star, slowly took shape in the depths of the lightning waves. This five-colored sphere kept rotating and flashing, and colors intertwined with each other. And above the Western Sea, behind the crisscrossing lightning patterns, there were enormous five-colored stripes that were extremely distorted. It was like a vortex but also like the outline of a door. It was also gradually taking shape, and billions of runes surged out from the stripes like butterflies. Old Man Guqiong and Bright Moon Householder were extremely puzzled, and they looked at each other. Although they had never gone through the heavenly tribulation, according to the records of the Heaven Alliance and the Tao Alliance, there seemed to be one gate of the immortal world. It was the huge five-colored gate of the immortal world on the Yilan continent, and they had never heard of a whirlpool and a gate. It took several hours for the two gates of the immortal world to take shape. Boom, boom, boom. Thunderbolts, which sounded like hundreds of millions of heavenly horses neighing, came from the western sky and dashed toward all directions in the sky. They were like arrogant war drums that shook heaven and earth, and they covered the scrolls, the heavenly eyes, the starry sky, and the heavenly gates. The magical power of the Taoist cultivators could suppress all sects, and this could be seen from the power of the ascension tribulation. Once the gates of the immortal world were formed, the world fell into an indescribable balance again. Thunderbolts, multicolored lights, Buddhist chants, and the brilliance of the stars and the moon began to gradually accumulate power. The four continents fell silent again, and a struggle of despair and rebirth began to spread between heaven and earth. Finally, it's the most critical moment. Xiaohua sensed that the pressure in the sky was getting heavier, and there was a great pushing force in the nearby space. His body was about to be torn apart under this pressure, and Xiaohua knew that the final thunder tribulation was coming. However, he didn't expect that he would wait for 3 days and 3 nights. These 3 days and 3 nights were extremely difficult to endure, and it felt as if a murderous guillotine was hanging above his head and could fall at any time. However, he didn't know when it would fall. If it weren't for the prayers of hundreds of millions of creatures, Xiaohua felt that he wouldn't be able to endure it. If Xiaohua was like this, how could the master of the Shangqing Palace, the Golden Winged Giant Rock, Aojia, and the others be any better? His heart was full of complicated thoughts, and he couldn't dispel them no matter what secret techniques he used. Moreover, after these 3 days and 3 nights, after the strange phenomenon in the sky, a kind of scarlet color gradually increased, and a kind of ashen color gradually seeped out of the ground. It seemed like a kind of great furnace of heaven and earth. Bang! Xiaohua suddenly felt relaxed, and he felt that the magic power in his body didn't need to be activated by him. His body, which he had tried his best to maintain, couldn't be suppressed, and it suddenly expanded. Then, golden light radiated in all directions, and it unexpectedly turned into a transcendence golden body that was tens of thousands of feet tall. It was even more magnificent and vast than the great sage of the human race in the 10,000 demon realm. Bang! Meanwhile, the Thunderbolt Immortal's golden body also appeared in the Yilan continent, and it was also tens of thousands of feet tall. Oh my god! Gu Qiong, old man and Bright Moon householder, who had been immersed in silence for 3 days and 3 nights, were shocked once again, and they cried out in unison. This? How powerful are Master Shao and the Thunderbolt Immortal! According to the ancient records, a Dharma body of 1,000 feet is already very rare, and those who enter the immortal world gate only need a few thousand feet. If a Dharma body of tens of thousands of feet reaches the immortal world, how powerful would it be? Boom, boom, boom! Under the heavens on the ground, the Maitreya Buddha of the Blessed Land World's World Lord exuded boundless Buddha radiance, and his golden body that was tens of thousands of feet tall exuded unparalleled benevolence. He stood on the 9 lotus platforms and stood high in the sky. Namo Maitreya Buddha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha of the World Lord couldn't help but call out the future Buddha Lord's Buddha name, and he exclaimed, World Lord, with such a Buddha body like the future Buddha Lord, can I, the Pure Land World's Buddha, and the Buddhas of the Thunder Sound Temple withstand it? The Mahavairocana Buddha of the World Lord was also shocked, but he remained calm. After pondering for a while he said, Namo Amitba, if he didn't have any merit, how could he obtain such a Buddha body? If he didn't save the world and suppress evil, how could the future Buddha Lord open such a huge heavenly gate? With such merit, the power of billions of living beings should be able to help the future Buddha Lord enter the Buddha kingdom. On the hidden immortal continent. Boom, boom! 2 explosions resounded. Without any majestic chi pillars descending, the Wisdom Palace Lord and the Prime Clarity Palace Lord both revealed their subsidiary bodies. The Prime Clarity Palace Lord's subsidiary body was thousands of feet tall. His 5 chis surged and transformed into clouds beneath his feet. Although his subsidiary body's aura was extremely powerful, it was still like a baby compared to the Wisdom Palace Lord's subsidiary body that was tens of thousands of feet tall. Moreover, the Literature Palace Lord's subsidiary body was completely different from the Prime Clarity Palace Lord's subsidiary body. Other than the surging 5 chis, there were also 5 strands of early heaven true chi that transformed into inscription chains and inscription chains that roamed around. Above his head, there was even a faint outline of a scroll that resembled half a flower protecting him. Immortal Emperor Gaochen opened his mouth, as if he wanted to exclaim something. However, when he thought of Ing Kuei, he instantly understood why the Literature Palace Lord's subsidiary body was so shocking. Your Majesty, the Empress couldn't help but ask, isn't the Literature Palace Lord's subsidiary body a little too unbelievable? It's not just unbelievable. Immortal Emperor Gaochen could finally vent his frustrations. He replied in a low voice, it's simply unprecedented. To be honest, even if I were to ascend in this life, I'm afraid I wouldn't even be half the size of the Literature Palace Lord's subsidiary body. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, gift it, and thank you for all your support. http://www. Qidian. Combook 10041444972. SPX King of Order Introduction 1. A divine artifact descended from the heavens with a strange artifact spirit. An ordinary student, Su Ji, turned something rotten into something magical and dominated the mortal cities. Introduction 2. My name is Su Ji. On the surface, I'm the CEO of the Order Corporation. In reality, I have a divine artifact inside my body. I'm a cultivator who cultivates by maintaining the order of the heavens. I'm the future enforcer of the immortal world. I'm the king of order of the Sun Galaxy. Xiao Duan Tanhua City's new book, the first Xianxia novel of 16 million words, The Story of the Cultivation God. Readers who are interested in the development of Xiao Duan Tanhua's new book can join the public WeChat account, Xiao Duan Tanhua, or join the QQ group to discuss the plot. Chapter 52-55. How is this possible? Empress already knew the answer, but she still asked, Your Majesty is the head of all Confucian cultivators in the world. How can there be a body of providence that surpasses Your Majesty's? The master of the Scholar Palace had a fortuitous encounter. Immortal Emperor Gauchen couldn't help but send a voice transmission. It was after I was saved in the 9 Dragons coffin. But the master of the Scholar Palace is in the West Ocean. Empress was even more confused. Immortal Emperor Gauchen looked at Xiao Hua and smiled bitterly. Who asked him to have a selfless immortal friend? The scene in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm was similar. Feng Wu and Huang Tong's demon bodies had already covered the Golden Winged Peng's demon body. On the Dragon Island, Aojia's dragon body was over 10,000 feet long. But he had already lost the will to compete with enlightened being Yun's dragon body. How could the mortals in the 4 continents compare to the dragon cleansing liquid? While Immortal Emperor Gauchen was smiling bitterly, Xiao Hua was also smiling bitterly. With the birth of his Transcendence golden body, his nascent soul was also expanding rapidly, and so were the hundreds of scattered nascent souls. Xiao Hua wanted to send these scattered nascent souls out, but seeing that the 4 great continents could no longer contain more immortal world aura, he didn't dare to do so even if he was beaten to death. If he opened more than 100 immortal world gates, the whole world would collapse and be annihilated. Xiao Hua didn't dare to delay and hurriedly sent the hundreds of scattered souls into Shanhua continent from his lower Dantian, fearing that there would be another catastrophe during his tribulation. Boom! Just when Xiao Hua's golden body was formed, the ascension tribulation of the Dao Sex immortal world was the first to show its might. On the outline of the door of the immortal world, a white lightning bolt shot out from the door and descended towards the mortal world. This lightning bolt rapidly expanded as it descended. When it reached Xiao Hua's head, wouldn't it be 10,000 feet in size? The space rumbled, and Xiao Hua's golden body was also confined. Facing such a lightning tribulation, Xiao Hua was emboldened. He roared, "Attack!" He had already taken out the wishful staff from the space, and with a thought, the staff became 10,000 feet long and hit the lightning tribulation head-on. No way! Old man Guqiong almost lost his balance on the mountain peak. His legs went soft as he cried out, "Spiritual Master Xiao, are you trying to defy the heavens?" Bright Moon Householder's hands were also shivering. He wasn't scared but rather excited, and he shouted crazily. According to the Heavenly Alliance's records, when a Taoist cultivator goes through a tribulation, he will use a magical artifact to resist the thunder tribulation. Those who dare to face the thunder tribulation will be engulfed by an even more ferocious thunder tribulation. But if he can resist the thunder tribulation and get a celestial body, he will be tainted by the heaven's murderous intent, and no celestial in the celestial world can resist it. I didn't expect Taoist Master Xiao to be so warlike despite his gentle and refined appearance. Unfortunately, they didn't know that Xiao Hua didn't like to fight. Back then, when he was in the Yilin continent, he was only thinking about how to return to the Dawn Rain continent and how to break the immortal formation. He forgot to ask the Heavenly Alliance and the Tao Alliance to look for records in this area. As for the records that the Heavenly Alliance and the Tao Alliance wanted to give him, Xiao Hua didn't have the heart and didn't have the time to look at them. Boom! Under the wishful staff of the 5 elements, the lightning was instantly extinguished. However, the white thunderbolts were just as Bright Moon Householder had said. They blotted out the sky and covered the earth as they fell down. It seemed as if they were going to drown Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua brandished the wishful steel staff and used the heavenly staff technique. Nothing could enter his body, and he annihilated all the thunderbolts. How arrogant! One immortal world gate moved, so how could the other immortal world gate be willing to fall behind? On the Yilin continent, the immortal world gate, which was decorated with lightning balls, trembled. Then, a white ball of lightning came down from the sky, streaking across the space and falling toward the thunderbolt immortal, who was standing high in the sky. The ball-shaped lightning was like a falling star. Its speed was extremely fast, and it even had an extremely long tail behind it. The immense impact caused the void to be extremely compressed. Although it was still a distance away from Thunderbolt Immortal, the void near him had already collapsed. Hee hee. The Thunderbolt Immortal smiled and raised his hand. Swish! The soaring dragon scissors streaked across the space like 2 giant dragons. They instantly cut the white lightning bolt in half. This lightning tribulation was also strange. After the white lightning bolt was destroyed, it immediately disappeared. Then more lightning bolts came down from the sky like rain. The immortal world gate overbearingly took the lead. Above the Pure Land world, the huge swastika symbol that covered the sky finally began to rotate. As it rotated, countless golden swastikas fell with Buddha's light. Countless heavenly flowers gushed out with chanting. Heavenly ladies and heavenly dragons came into the world. Countless greater thousand worlds and lesser thousand worlds were born and destroyed in this Buddha's light. The Buddha's light formed a thick light beam, slowly crossing the space and descending on the 4 continents. Just as the Buddha's light touched the boundary barrier, Mount Meru appeared again. The chanting of thousands of Buddhas drifted down from the mountain, sprinkling around the Maitreya Buddha. In all kinds of exotic fragrances, the lotuses that were previously spread all over the 4 continents and now only gathered in the Pure Land began to fly. Blossoms, pieces, clusters, rushed to the feet of the Maitreya Buddha. The 9-grade lotus platform emitted a clear Buddha's voice and began to rotate slowly. As it rotated, the lotuses that poured in turned into fireflies. As for the golden body of the Maitreya Buddha, it gradually rose in the rotation of the 9-grade lotus platform. Swish! The first falling heavenly flower touched the golden body of the Maitreya Buddha. The heavenly flower instantly turned into a light shadow. The environment within the light shadow was dense, firmly covering the Maitreya Buddha. Although the golden light around the Maitreya Buddha shone brightly, it could not be pierced. It was like a transparent mucosa was tightly attached to the golden body of the Maitreya Buddha. Namo Maitreya Buddha. The Maitreya Buddha chanted the name of Buddha, and the Sanskrit incantation of 9 syllables fell into an illusion. Pa 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 pa. Sounds were heard. Everything was destroyed. The mucosa seemed to be gradually disappearing, but there were still thousands of strands that could not be removed. Swish, swish, swish. The heavenly flower naturally danced all over the sky. Countless illusory light shadows fell. The Maitreya Buddha's Sanskrit incantation of 9 syllables was already overwhelmed. His hands began to form seals. Oh! After the heavenly flower, it was the heavenly woman. All kinds of worldly affairs appeared in the eyes of the Maitreya Buddha in succession. Unfortunately, the Maitreya Buddha had just obtained human nature. Human nature was nascent and Buddha nature was like heaven and earth. These Buddhist tribulations that were extremely difficult for ordinary people to deal with were easy in his eyes. Roar, roar! At the same time as the heavenly woman, a roaring heavenly dragon appeared. The heavenly dragon was multicolored. It did not attack the golden body of the Maitreya Buddha. Instead, it rushed bravely into the light behind his head. Every time a heavenly dragon crashed into it, the light would tremble, and the power of faith would weaken a little. Helpless, the Maitreya Buddha occasionally activated the Buddhist seal, and used the power of faith to kill the heavenly dragon that rushed over. However, high up in the sky, the swastika was still spinning faster. The seemingly endless heavenly flower, heavenly woman, and heavenly dragon fell one after another. The guiding Buddhist light slowly fell again. Although the merits of the Maitreya Buddha in the 4 major continents were condensed into a tough lotus platform, after half a day, the Buddhist light on the golden body of the Maitreya Buddha had already dimmed. The heavenly flower had turned into a sticky liquid, covering the Buddhist light. The light behind his head was also riddled with holes, and the river of faith could not flow. Seeing the Buddhist light of the Maitreya Buddha flashing, it was like a candle in the night wind being extinguished. The Mahavairakana of the Maitreya Buddha's heart suddenly rose. He said in a low voice, "All Buddhas, recite the meditation exorcism mantra to help the future Buddha meet the heavenly demon tribulation. Namo Maitreya Buddha." Namo Daksing Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's heart also trembled. He knew in his heart that when ordinary Buddhas entered the divine gate, they would be met with the heavenly demon tribulation. The future Buddha actually faced the heavenly demon tribulation. He hurriedly instructed the Buddhas of the Xilinglong temple to start reciting. Woo woo! A strange wind suddenly rose. The sky above the Elysium, like before, suddenly fell into darkness. Other than the guiding Buddhist light above the divine gate that slowly fell as usual, everything could no longer be seen. Not only that, this darkness was like a huge drop of ink that fell into the 4 continents. It started to spread from the Elysium to other places. Very quickly, the 4 continents fell into darkness again. At the same time that the swastika that covered the sky in the Pure Land world started to rotate, The 3 starry skies above the Thousand Demons' sacred realm also gradually turned black. Billions of star marks started to appear in the starry skies. These star marks were like a spider web that instantly covered the entire starry skies. Wisps of primitive aura mixed with the power of the stars and moon fell from the sky, covering the golden rock, Fengwu, and Fengtong, who were standing in the 3 corners of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. Mottled and messy light was emitted from the light pillars like dancing mosquitoes and flies, gradually covering the entire Thousand Demons' sacred realm. As for the Great Sage Hall, at this moment it started to distort again. A primitive star chart that no one had ever seen before slowly appeared. Feeling the star mark on his demonic body begin to burn and hurt, piercing straight into his heart, lungs, and soul, the golden-winged great rock knew that his final step was about to begin. He flapped his wings with difficulty, and the thick power of the stars and the moon landed on the star mark, urging it to appear and manifest. However, the thick aura of desolation suppressed the golden-winged great rock until he could not breathe, as if he was being pressed under a mountain. Jie! The golden rock let out a clear cry, and the starlight on his wings shone brightly. This starlight started from his wings and spread towards the golden rock's demonic body that was close to 10,000 feet tall. When his entire body was as bright as the stars, all the starlight fell on the star marks that had been formed by the power of the stars and moon. As the starlight gathered, the star marks turned into the shadow of a star, facing the star in the starry skies from afar. Hey! 2 equally loud cries rang out, and the Phoenix Wu and Huang Tong's demonic bodies and even the starry skies changed. The starry skies above the Phoenix Wu's head were similar to the golden rocks. They were also mottled and distorted, but the difference was that the distorted star marks near each star were now brighter. The brilliance of the sun and moon separated each star, and the regions where each star was located were similar to the golden rock's starry skies. Like a flood, the primitive aura rushed down from each star and landed on the Phoenix Wu's body, firmly suppressing his demonic body. The Phoenix Wu's demonic body was covered in star marks, which were different from the golden rock star marks. There were a total of 132 million star marks, and these star marks did not appear on the surface of the Phoenix Wu's body. Instead, they were still engraved on the demonic body. However, many star marks gathered starlight, and as they dazzled, they corresponded with the 132 million stars in the shattered starry skies. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it a tip, and thank you for all forms of support. http://www. Qidian. Combook 10041444972. ASPX King of Order Introduction 1. A divine artifact descended from the heavens, with a strange artifact spirit hidden within. An ordinary student, Su Ji, turned something rotten into something magical, and moved unhindered in the city of mortals. Introduction 2. My name is Su Ji. On the surface, I am the CEO of the Order Company, but in reality, I have a divine artifact in my body. I am a cultivator who cultivates by maintaining the order of the heavenly Tao. I am the future enforcer of the celestial world. I am the king of order of the solar star field. Shaoduan Tanhua City's new book has been completed, and the first Xianxia novel with 16 million words has been written. Readers who are concerned about the development of Shaoduan Tanhua's new book can join the public WeChat account, Shaoduan Tanhua, or join the QQ group to discuss the plot. 116565446, 1705713, 64. Chapter 52-56. Above the sacred realm of thousand demons, when the 3 starry skies turned dark and hundreds of millions of star marks began to appear in the starry sky, above the North Sea, within the area of 1 million miles where the earth, fire, wind, and thunder were wreaking havoc, layers of space were collapsing and piling up. The sky looked chaotic yet clear at the same time. 2 heavenly eyes, one big and one small, appeared above the Dragon Island. Although the heavenly eyes were closed, their brows and eyes were very clear. The earth, fire, wind, and thunder had formed into clear lines, and surges of heavenly pressure that was a few times fiercer than the others came pouring down. Even the Dragon Clan, known as the strongest clan in the 4 great continents, had to crawl before this heavenly pressure. Yet, amidst such a mighty heavenly pressure, there was still a valiant dragon flying up into the sky. Although Aojia's dragon body was only 100,000 feet long, much smaller than Reverend Yun's 100,000 feet long dragon body, the aura emanating from him was not any weaker than Reverend Yun. However, before Aojia and Reverend Yun could fly up to 1,000 feet into the sky, the earth flames near the heavenly eyes began to fall down like rain. The rain of fire was like the tears of a lover, falling endlessly. As the earth flames fell, the void was blocked, and the flames soared, filling the entire heaven and earth with flames. When Aojia saw the ferocious earth flames, he opened his mouth and spat out a dragon item that looked like a round ring, spraying out a clear light that protected him. When the earth flames touched the clear light, they were extinguished amidst a sizzling noise. Reverend Yun did not use any dragon item. He just opened his mouth and activated the heavenly dragon speech technique. Even though the void was blocked, ice thorns and snowballs were still shooting out, bringing with them a strong wind that swept across the sky. Although the first layer of earth flames was extinguished in an instant, more earth flames poured down right after it was extinguished. Aojia held on for the time it took to finish a meal. Crack! The dragon item cracked and could no longer be used. Aojia looked at the sky, then raised his head. Another crown-shaped dragon item flashed past, but did not spit it out. Swoosh! The earth fire fell mercilessly, igniting Aojia's dragon body. Roar! Aojia roared crazily as the dragon patterns on his body lit up. Beams of golden light pierced out in an attempt to extinguish the earth fire. However, no matter how Aojia rolled, the earth fire was like a sticky autumn rain. It didn't fall and burn straight into Aojia's scales, charring the dragon flesh beneath the scales black. While Aojia was holding on, Reverend Yun's dragon aura was getting weaker and weaker. He looked at Aojia in the distance, pondered for a brief moment, and decided to stop using the heavenly dragon speech magic. Sure enough, the underground flame had plunged into Reverend Yun's scales. Strangely, Reverend Yun's scales were covered with dragon marks. The scorching earth flame had only burned the dragon marks away, but at the moment when the dragon marks were destroyed, the scales shone with a golden gleam once again, and another dragon mark was born. I see. Aosheng had long flown out from the dragon palace on the dragon island. Through the dragon shadows on the island, he observed Aojia and Reverend Yun's tribulation. He said in a low voice, "The holy dragon is formed from the dragon cleansing liquid of the dragon realm. His dragon body is different from the Grand Elders. The earth, fire, wind, and thunder cannot hurt him." Not necessarily. Aoyi's eyes were filled with envy. Then he said, "Opening the heaven's eyes is a rare method of ascension for the dragon clan. The Grand Elder has prepared a lot of them, but I'm afraid they can't be used now. If the Grand Elder can't do it, the holy dragon might not be able to do it with his fleshly body alone." All the elders of the dragon clan remained silent. Aozhan opened his mouth, wanting to say something. But when he saw the solemn expression on the elders' faces, he shut his mouth. The earth flame burned for another hour. Aojia was tormented by the earth flame to the point where he could neither die nor live. It was really unbearable. Reverend Yun, on the other hand, was swimming freely. After the earth flame, Aojia took a deep breath and flew another 1,000 feet higher. Then, he heard the sound of wind and thunder coming from the sky. His expression changed drastically. He quickly opened his mouth and a green dragon crown flew out, landing right on his dragon horn. A bright light flashed from the dragon horn and shot into the dragon crown. The green light fell again and covered Aojia. This green light seemed to be smaller than the previous dragon ring. Aojia tried his best to shrink back into his dragon body, but to no avail. Boom! 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 Woo! Reverend Yun first exercised the heavenly dragon speech technique to test the power of the wind and thunder, then stopped and allowed the wind and thunder to strike. As expected, the dragon marks and golden light on his dragon body were still as strong as ever, and the wind and thunder could not hurt him at all. Reverend Yun gave a furious roar, then moved his dragon body and plunged straight into the earth flame, wind and thunder, approaching the heaven's eyes. Reverend Yun's momentum was tremendous, and the sound of his flight had stirred up the earth flame, wind and thunder. Aojia looked at Reverend Yun with envy, but could only try his best to resist the wind and thunder. When the wind and thunder came crashing down, it was even stronger than the earth flame. Not only was Aojia unable to fly higher, He was often blown away and fell to the ground. In the time it took to finish a meal, Reverend Yun had flown up a few levels into the sky. Cracks appeared on Aojia's dragon crown again. Boom! 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 The clear light shattered, and the wind and thunder struck again. This time Aojia was in an even worse condition. His dragon scales, which had been cracked by the earth flame, were shattered into pieces, and his charred dragon flesh was blown away by the wind. In just the time it took to finish a pot of tea, no dragon blood was dripping down, but Aojia had almost turned into a skeletal dragon. Grand Elder! Oshang cried out with a heartache, but what could he do? Aoi was the only one who kept staring at Reverend Yun's flying dragon body with a tight frown. Seeing that the earth flame, wind and thunder had all passed, high up in the sky, near the golden heaven's eyes, strong gusts of wind blew out again from the void that seemed to have broken off. The gusts of wind were as sharp as needles, whizzing down and hitting Reverend Yun's body, causing countless golden lights to burst out. Aojia was in an even worse state. The gusts of wind pierced through his dragon bones, creating tens of millions of tiny holes, and the howling of the wind was heard again. The death by 1,000 cuts of the human race is nothing more than this. Aojan could not help but tremble in his heart. After the strong gusts of wind passed, a rare tranquility appeared above the North Sea. The golden heaven's eyes began to tremble, and as it did so, layers of golden light sprinkled down like the sun. Seeing this, Aojia activated his body and soared into the sky without hesitation. When the golden light fell, the broken dragon body was gradually mended. What is the meaning of this? Fourth Elder Aoding looked at the golden light strangely and asked, could it be that he has already transcended the tribulation? How is that possible? Aoi looked at Reverend Yun, who was also covered in golden light and was jumping around, and was very surprised. Although I don't know how to transcend the tribulation by opening the heaven's eyes, since the heaven's eyes are not opened, the tribulation is not over yet. Boom! 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 As if the world was being split open, the two heaven's eyes, one big and one small, opened at the same time. Inside the heaven's eyes, layers of patterns that looked like growth rings spun and emerged. Crack! Crack! The first layer of growth rings spun, and a red thunderbolt came crashing down, hitting Aojia and Reverend Yun. 33% of the dragon scales on Aojia's dragon body that had just been mended were shattered, revealing the red dragon flesh underneath. The pain made Aojia roll in midair. Of course, Reverend Yun was not spared. However, under the red thunderbolt, his dragon scales did not change, and remained the same as before. Boom! Boom! The huge heaven's eyes seemed to be infuriated, and the red thunderbolt, which was a few times stronger than before, came crashing down again. Crack! Finally, Reverend Yun's dragon scales cracked, but the dragon patterns were still moving around, trying to mend them. Boom! The third layer of red thunderbolt came crashing down, causing the entire void to collapse completely. Indescribable ripples spread out in all directions, and the thunderbolt finally shattered Reverend Yun's dragon scales. Awoo! Reverend Yun gave a sorrowful cry. His dragon blood flowed out, and his dragon flesh was broken, as if 30% of his dragon scales were ripped off. Right after that, the two heaven's eyes did not stop. 6 thunderbolts of orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple came crashing down one after another, completely destroying all the dragon scales on Reverend Yun's body. Reverend Yun did not even have the chance to fight back. On the other hand, as Aojia's dragon body had been completely shattered by the heaven's eyes, he did not suffer any more pain when the heaven's eyes were opened. However, Aojia's heart was hanging in his throat for a long time. This was because every thunderbolt had exceeded the limits of what his dragon body could withstand. If he had not cultivated successfully and made sufficient preparations beforehand, he was afraid that any one of the thunderbolts would have annihilated his soul. Seeing that the heaven's eyes were divided into 9 layers, and the 7th thunderbolt had come crashing down, Aojia dared not to be careless. He focused his mind and waited for the 8th thunderbolt. Boom! The 8th pitch-black thunderbolt came as expected, piercing deeply into the dragon bodies of Aojia and Reverend Yun, who had lost the protection of their dragon scales. Awoo! Aojia and Reverend Yun roared crazily, their shrill cries echoing across 1,000,000 miles. As the black thunderbolts surged in their bodies, apart from their dragon horns and tail, all the other parts of their demon bodies, which were known to be the strongest, began to shatter. Even Reverend Yun's dragon body, which was condensed from the dragon cleansing liquid, was no exception. When their dragon bodies were completely shattered, Aojia and Reverend Yun's dragon horns suddenly glowed brilliantly. A beam of golden light wrapped around Aojia's dragon body, while a beam of 9-colored light wrapped around Reverend Yun's dragon body, leaving only 2 dragon tails swaying outside the brilliance. When Aojia and Reverend Yun looked at the heaven's eyes again, the golden beam came crashing down and enveloped Aojia and Reverend Yun. Their bodies, which looked like light balls, were sent flying high up into the sky, while a jaw-dropping transformation was taking place. The silhouette first shrank, and both the dragon horns and the dragon tail were retracted, turning into a ball of light. Then the golden light gradually leaked out, and the ball of light appeared like a huge piece of meat. This piece of meat was mottled with golden light, but it looked more like a huge golden caterpillar. Outside the caterpillar's body, all sorts of illusory lights and shadows were pouring into it in a disorderly manner. The golden light began to flicker, and as the golden light swayed, so did the space. It was as if with every sway, the golden light of the caterpillar would be frozen. Damn it! Aoshang seemed to have understood something. He growled. This is testing the will of the dragon race. This is an insult to the dignity of the dragon race. Oe said calmly, it doesn't matter if it's an insult. Under the heaven's eyes, the strongest dragon body and the weakest caterpillar are both ordinary. If the Grand Elder and the Holy Dragon can't withstand the test of the weakest insect body, they will be reduced to caterpillars. Only they have the heart to control the weakest insect body, so they can better control the strongest dragon body. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, bookmark it and reward it. Thank you for all your support. http://www. Qidian. Combook 10041444972. ASPX King of Order Introduction 1. A divine artifact descended from the heavens, with a strange artifact spirit hidden within. An ordinary student, Suji, turned something rotten into something magical and dominated the mortal city. Introduction 2. My name is Suji. On the surface, I am the CEO of the Order Company, but in fact I have a divine artifact in my body. I am a cultivator who cultivates by maintaining the order of the heavenly Tao. I am the future enforcer of the immortal realm. I am the king of order of the Sun Star Field. Shaoduan Tanhua City's new book has been completed. It is the first Xianxia novel of 16 million words. The Legend of the Cultivation God. Readers who are concerned about the development of Shaoduan Tanhua's new book can join the public WeChat account, Shaoduan Tanhua, or join the QQ group to discuss the plot. Chapter 52-57. Aozhan continued. There's a saying among the Confucian cultivators of the human race. A real man knows when to yield and when to stand tall. I'm not worried about Grand Elder. Aoding said. He has lived for so many years he still has a humble heart. What I'm worried about is the Saint Dragon. That's a dragon body formed by the dragon cleansing liquid. How can he tolerate his noble dragon soul existing in a caterpillar's body? However, the dragons of the Dragon Island worried too much. Reverend Yun's humility was no less than Aojia's. He watched as the caterpillar sprouted its cocoon and turned into a butterfly. A 9-colored dragon butterfly flew to the boundary of the realm, but there were no further changes. On the contrary, Aojia, who the dragons were not worried about, his body shook violently the moment he turned into a butterfly and almost collapsed. It was as if he could not adapt to the change from a caterpillar to a butterfly. Just as he was about to touch the boundary of the realm, the last layer of white lightning struck again. Not only did it shatter the 9-colored dragon butterfly, it also surrounded the dragon butterfly's body. Layers of strange ripples fell from the heaven eye scripture and seeped into the light cocoon. Reverend Yun's light cocoon trembled violently, as if it could not adapt to the strange ripples. If Reverend Yun was in such a state, Aojia would not be able to withstand it. His golden dragon butterfly was wrapped in the light cocoon, and the ripples tore a tiny gap in the light cocoon. Layers of dragon patterns mixed with the aura of Long Sea gushed out. The elders of the Dragon Island naturally did not know about it, but when they saw the light cocoon breaking, they became anxious. At the same time, the sky suddenly dimmed and darkness fell. The Heaven-Eye scripture of the Dragon Realm appeared. On the hidden immortal continent, the scroll gate of the heavenly court of the Confucian cultivators also took shape. 1,000 feet long scroll combined with a sword beam and another 10,000 feet long scroll formed amidst the 5 chi righteous thunder. A vast and supreme aura emanated from the scroll and shrouded the entire hidden immortal continent. Even immortal Emperor Gaochen was shocked. Then, when the master of the Supreme Purity Palace revealed his 10,000 feet long child body, the 5 chi around him surged and turned into clouds under his feet. Then, he saw the Hall of Literature Star's 100,000 feet tall sun form. There were also 5 streaks of Xiantian True Qi that turned into Minglu chains and Xingming chains. Above his head, there was a faint outline of a scroll that looked like half a flower. Amidst his shock, he couldn't help but think of Ying Kuei. After immortal Emperor Gochun said a few words to the Eastern Sea Empress, the 5 energy righteous lightning that filled the sky came crashing down. Above Wen Chu's body, 6 waterfall-like lightning bolts condensed below the scroll. Your Majesty! The East Sea God Empress couldn't help but say in a low voice. The ascension of Heaven Tower has begun. She saw that the lightning was condensing into 6 gigantic inscriptions. Rites, music, archery, imperial calligraphy, and several others. Immortal Emperor Gaochen looked at the 6 runes and frowned. Why is the first round so simple? It was actually a test of the 6 arts? To be able to activate the Door of Scrolls, which one of them wasn't a literary saint, or even a literary star? How could he not pass? I'm not sure. The East Sea Empress was also a little bewildered. She smiled and said, Your Majesty, please take a look first. This is a rare opportunity. That's true. Immortal Emperor Gaochen said and couldn't help but look at Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua, who was like a god, was still waving the wishful staff and splitting the lightning tribulation into pieces. He was truly a peerless hero. However, Immortal Emperor Gaochen wasn't admiring Xiao Hua's majesty. He was worried about Princess Xixia and Princess Qingqing inside the Kunlun mirror. After all, he had just given the supreme heavenly mirror to Xiao Hua. Who knew if Xiao Hua had the time to blood bond with the supreme heavenly mirror and the Kunlun mirror? Boom boom boom. Immortal Emperor Gaochen didn't have time to retract his gaze. Under the scroll, 8 lightning bolts rushed out from the thunder tide. On top of the Shangqing Palace Master's body, the 8 lightning bolts condensed into runes: zither, chess, book, painting, poem, wine, flower, and tea. A gentleman's 8 elegant matters? Immortal Emperor Gaochen looked at the East Sea Empress and exchanged glances. However, when Wen Chu's body fell into the shoot lightning bolt and the Shangqing Palace Master's body fell into the chess lightning bolt, the two and all the Immortal Palace's Confucian cultivators suddenly understood. They saw that Wen Chu had fallen into a lightning illusion for 10 suns. The 10 suns were like 10 fire crows that flew disorderly in the sky. Each of the fire crows shot out endless heat waves that not only killed everything in the space, but also ferociously attacked Wen Chu's body. The light on Wen Chu's body was already on fire. The inscription law chains also shattered inch by inch and were annihilated by the flames. At this moment, only the inscription law chains on Wen Chu's body were still slowly moving and isolating the flames. As for the Shangqing Palace Master's body, it was actually the ground as the chessboard and the mountains as the chess pieces. Every time a chess piece moved, the Shangqing Palace Master's body would tremble, as if he was expending a great amount of energy. Your Majesty! East Sea Empress saw this and whispered again. These 2 places seem to be dead ends. Immortal Emperor Gochun knew that the East Sea Empress had not seen him for a long time and missed him. Thus, he did not mind her questions and whispered, Yes, the Shangqing Palace Master will be playing against the Heavenly Court's Book Immortal. If he is careless, he will lose. Losing won't kill him, but he will lose the chance to ascend the Heavenly Palace. Channeling the true qi in his body to move the mountains is even more dangerous. If he is not careful, the power of the mountains can invade his body. If his body is destroyed, the Shangqing Palace Master will not be able to return. The Wuxia Palace Master is even more difficult. East Sea Empress nodded and said, The 10 fire crows form a great formation. If one doesn't understand great formations, Casually killing a fire crow will cause 9 fire crows to counterattack at the same time. The heavenly fire of 1 fire crow is enough to burn the Shangqing Palace Master's body, let alone 9 fire crows. Just as the immortal emperor and empress said, the Shangqing Palace Master fell into the lightning ball and began to deal with it. Wen Chu stood inside the lightning ball and watched the 10 suns wreaking havoc without making a move. Seeing that the Shangqing Palace Master's body was burnt to a thin layer, Wen Chu suddenly raised his right arm. Buzz! The space vibrated and a bow appeared out of nowhere. Wen Chu squinted his eyes and a 5-colored light surged on his right arm. A few strands of golden light shot out and landed on the bow. In an instant they condensed into a small golden arrow. As Wen Chu's right arm pulled back, it was as if there was another invisible arm pulling the bow. The bow let out a creaking sound. Along with this sound, a strange phenomenon appeared in the space to the left. Thousands of lights and shadows were distorted. Strands of crystal-like noble qi seeped into the small arrow. Even the space itself was pulled into the small arrow by this strange phenomenon. Even though Wen Chu's right arm had pulled back the bow, he didn't take the next step. His right arm was as steady as a mountain. The 10 fire crows seemed to be doing whatever they wanted, but in reality, they were dancing around with great profundity. The entire lightning ball became quiet. Suddenly, the sound of the bowstring pierced through the lightning ball. Whoosh! At the same time, a sharp whistling sound came from the bow. The small golden arrow paused for a moment. In the next moment, a group of blurry lights appeared one after another. The small golden arrow suddenly disappeared. Rumble! A huge roar came from the void. An invisible wave seemed to collapse. In the blink of an eye, the small golden arrow shot into the chest of a fire crow. Caw! The fire crow let out a mournful cry as the small golden arrow pierced through its chest. At the same time, another fire crow flew in front of the small golden arrow. Poof! The fire crow didn't even have the chance to mourn before it was killed. Then, the fire crows seemed to take the initiative to collide with the small golden arrow. Poof! The sound of explosions in the void continued. Layers of golden light filled the air. 9 fire crows were pierced by the small golden arrow. What's more, when the small golden arrow pierced into the lightning ball, the lightning ball also let out a rumbling sound. The lightning was annihilated, and when Chu stepped out of the lightning ball, boom! The scroll in the sky slowly opened. Inside there were clouds that looked like stairs that slowly descended. On the ground, the newly formed grand formation of the 9 provinces let out a dragon roar. The earth dragon pulsed and its fate condensed into different colored flowers. Millions of plum blossoms came out and fell below Wen Chu's feet, carrying him forward for more than 1,000 feet. Haha! Wen Chu couldn't help but laugh after seeing the plum blossoms. He thought about the symbol of the northern Ming clan. So this was the origin of the plum blossoms. It was not like what Xiaohua thought, where the ancient Confucian cultivators flattered the 4 great clans. Good! Immortal Emperor Go-chan saw this and couldn't help but clap. The Literature Star Master's first victory is indeed a good start. I hope that he will be unstoppable and trample the heavens. The Eastern Sea Empress, on the other hand, was not optimistic. Your Majesty, the Literature Star Master has always been hiding his strength. Why did he reveal it today? If this arrow pierced through 3 fire crows, then it would be divided into 3 parts to break the formation. This is in line with the moderate path of our Confucian cultivators. Even if this arrow pierced through 9 fire crows, it would still be a display of bravado. But the Literature Star Master actually broke the lightning ball. I'm afraid this will be a disgrace to the welcoming envoy. This will make the test even more difficult. Immortal Emperor Go-chan didn't agree and smiled. Empress, you are underestimating the Literature Star Master too much. He is already very strong and later on he obtained some fortunes. These tests are really nothing. I feel that this should be the final test for him. The problem is, the Eastern Sea Empress looked at the Supreme Purity Palace Master who had already taken the initiative in the chess game and said, the Literature Star Master is not the only one undergoing the tribulation. Ah, that's true. Immortal Emperor Go-chan sighed and nodded. This is the first time I have seen 2 people undergoing tribulations at the same time. I don't dare to recklessly predict their fate. As he spoke, a boom rang out as Wen Chu came to a stop in midair. From the hanging scroll, A clump of heavenly fire descended. The heavenly fire seemed thin, but by the time it reached Wenchu's head, it had already transformed into the shape of a 300-meter-long flood dragon. Woo! As Wenchu looked up, a fierce wind sprang up beneath his feet. An earthen wind appeared out of nowhere and swept him up. However, both the heavenly fire and the earth wind were very weak. They didn't even blow off a single petal of the plum blossom under Wenchu's feet, let alone his python-like 5 energies. PS. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, gift it, and thank you for all your support. http://www. Qidian. Combook 10041444972. SPX King of Order Introduction 1. A divine artifact descended from the heavens with a strange artifact spirit. An ordinary student, Suji, turned something rotten into something magical. Introduction to My name is Suji. On the surface, I am the CEO of the Order Company. In reality, I have a divine artifact in my body. I am a cultivator who cultivates by maintaining the order of the heavens. I am the future enforcer of the celestial realm. I am the king of order of the solar star field. Xiaoduan Tanhua City's new book, the first Xianxia novel of 16 million words. The story of the cultivation god. Readers who are interested in the development of Xiaoduan Tanhua's new book can join the public WeChat account, Xiaoduan Tanhua, or join the QQ group to discuss the plot. 116565446, 1705713, 64. Chapter 52-58. However, just as the heavenly fire and earth wind enveloped the space where Wenchu was, a bronze bamboo slip fell from the scroll. The bamboo slip tumbled in the air, and the scholarly cultivators could clearly see that there was a large cauldron inscribed on it. Not only were Tai Bai Jinxing and the others confused, but even immortal Emperor Gaochen was also stunned. He didn't know why this inscription suddenly appeared. When the bamboo slips fell into the heavenly fire, Kacha! The heavenly fire burned the bamboo slips until they cracked. From the cracks, the inscription armor fell from the bamboo slips. Boom, boom, boom. The moment the inscription armor touched the heavenly fire, it immediately let out a roaring sound. The heavenly fire fell into the inscription armor along with the roaring sound. Countless pillars of Aoran Qi that emitted golden light rushed out from the void and fell into the inscription armor. The inscription armor actually broke in half. The eye on the top of the inscription armor let out a buzzing sound and turned into a huge cauldron lid. The corner of Wenchu's mouth curled up. His big hand grabbed the half-cauldron character out of thin air. Unfortunately, his big hand grabbed nothing. Obviously, this half-inscription was not in the same space as Wenchu. Woo-woo. The half of the inscription fell into the earth wind, and the earth wind immediately blew in. With a buzzing sound, the pillar of golden light fell down and a huge cauldron was born. The heaven and earth cauldron? Immortal Emperor Gaochen's expression changed as if he thought of something. The East Sea Empress hurriedly asked, "Your Majesty, what is the heaven and earth cauldron?" "Let's wait and see." Immortal Emperor Gaochen didn't explain and only hesitated. "I'm not sure yet." Boom! As soon as Immortal Emperor Gaochen finished speaking, the cauldron flew up and the lid fell down, sealing Wenchu's avatar inside. Woo-woo! Immediately afterward, above the scroll, the sky cracked, and the noble spirit in the shape of golden threads poured over the cauldron like a waterfall. Then, countless inscriptions appeared on the cauldron. Under the impact of the golden noble spirit, the spiritual qi turned into the shape of a dragon and began to circle around the cauldron. In the dancing genuine qi, the cauldron gradually became transparent. The Confucian cultivator of the immortal palace saw the situation inside again. 5 genuine fires of different colors roared and pounced on Wenchu. As expected, Immortal Emperor Go-chan whispered, "This is the legendary heaven and earth cauldron, specifically used to test the 5 energy unifications of the ascending heaven tower Confucian cultivators." "That's good." The East Sea Empress finally heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Rest assured, Your Majesty. The master of the Once-You Palace first was hailed as an immortal master because he offered the 5 Qis unification technique. Furthermore, the master of the Shangqing Palace also cultivated it before." "That's good, that's good." Immortal Emperor Go Chen's expression became better. And he said, "My hidden immortal continent's 5 energies origin law has been lost. Without the authentic 5 energies origin law, this cauldron of heaven and earth would definitely not be able to pass." At this time, the master of the Shangqing Palace also came out from the lightning ball. Aside from his slightly pale face, there was nothing special about him. However, when he saw the huge cauldron in the distance, emitting the supreme authority of the heavenly court, he couldn't help but be shocked. Boom boom. Without waiting for the master of the Shangqing Palace to fly up, the scroll above his head let out a rumbling sound. Similarly, a bamboo scroll fell down, and on it was also the word cauldron. Damn it! The master of the Shangqing Palace also had a history. Seeing the word cauldron falling down, he understood and hurriedly patted his own head. Woo-woo. 5 mottled and impure genuine qi gushed out. The master of the Shangqing Palace's genuine qi was naturally impure and not mature enough. However, Wen Chu was different. Not only did his genuine qi reach perfection, he also had 3 strands of Xiantian genuine qi. After Xiao Hua returned to the Western Sea, he even gave 2 strands of Ying Kuei's genuine qi to Wen Chu. Even if the 5 flames of the heaven and earth cauldron of heaven and earth were like dragons, how could they hurt him? Seeing the 5 flames turning into pythons, Wen Chu only channeled his genuine qi to protect his body and squinted his eyes to observe. The fire pythons crazily swam and opened their mouths to devour the genuine qi. Moreover, after the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the fire inside the cauldron became even stronger, covering the sky and earth. Even the subbody showed signs of melting. Wen Chu slightly smiled and patted his own head. 5 strands of genuine qi shot up to the sky, 2 of which were especially thick and clear. Roar, roar, roar. After a few angry roars, the 5 strands of genuine qi turned into a huge dragon with 5 claws and fiercely pounced down. The huge dragon claw grabbed and immediately imprisoned the fire pythons. When the huge dragon opened its mouth, it swallowed the fire pythons back into its mouth. I understand now. Seeing the 5 strands of genuine qi devouring the 5 elemental fires in the heaven and earth cauldron of heaven and earth, Immortal Emperor Gaochen finally understood and said, "The master of the Scholar Palace is worry-free." "Your Majesty, what do you mean?" The East Sea Empress was slightly stunned. Immortal Emperor Gaochen transmitted his voice. "Ying Kuei's things. Xiao Hua gave all of them to the master of the Scholar Palace." "It can't be." Immortal Emperor Gaochen had already told the East Sea Empress about Ying Kuei. The East Sea Empress was stunned and also transmitted her voice. "That's something that belongs to the Heavenly Court's book Immortal. Even I would covet it. How could Xiao Hua give it to the master of the Scholar Palace so easily?" "Don't forget." Immortal Emperor Gaochen replied. "Xiao Hua is a Taoist cultivator. Why would he take something that belongs to the Heavenly Court?" The East Sea Empress was speechless. Just as Immortal Emperor Gaochen said, after the 5 strands of genuine qi devoured the 5 elemental fires, the heaven and earth cauldron of heaven and earth let out a roar and separated. It turned back into the word cauldron, and flew back into the scroll. Looking at the scroll again with a loud boom, it fell down again. Another scroll gave birth to clouds. As for Wen Chu's feet, fate condensed into an orchid and lifted him up for another 1,000 feet. Wen Chu escaped from the heaven and earth cauldron of heaven and earth. The moment the master of the Supreme Purity Palace fell down, Wen Chu took the opportunity to see the master of the Supreme Purity Palace being burned by the 5 elemental fires. Whoosh! At this time, another bamboo slip fell from the scroll above Wen Chu's head. This time, the bamboo slip was even more severe and directly shattered. Boom boom boom. The broken bamboo slips transformed into armor inscriptions that were even bigger than mountains. Each of the inscriptions had the aura of the heavenly court. Every time they fell, the void would be torn apart. What was special was that although Wen Chu had the 5 energies protecting his body, they were easily destroyed by the inscriptions as if they were natural enemies. Book Mountain. Immortal Emperor Gaochen was a bit hesitant as if he wasn't sure if it was Book Mountain because each of the inscriptions was really big, and not in the shape of a mountain. Immortal Emperor Gaochen didn't understand, and Wen Chu was even more confused. He first channeled his genuine qi to resist, but the moment it touched the inscriptions, it was immediately destroyed. Thus, Wen Chu could only move his body to dodge. In the beginning, the inscriptions fell like raindrops, but then they began to speed up and gradually condensed into lines. Wen Chu was swept by the inscription several times and his genuine chi protection was destroyed, almost injuring his secondary body. It was only a cultivation method for a meal. But Wen Chu discovered that the inscriptions that fell on his body didn't disappear, but instead they piled up together. The strangest thing was that some of the inscriptions were like mountain rocks, and some were connected together to form sentences. There were even more inscriptions that condensed into articles and books. Book Mountain. Really is Book Mountain. Immortal Emperor Gaochen saw the huge book piled up by the inscriptions and was finally certain. The East Sea Empress had a worried expression on her face as she whispered, "Your Majesty, in the past, there were also 1 stars that ascended from our immortal palace and the 4 great clans of the hidden immortal continent. But it didn't seem to be this difficult. I have never seen such a strange method of examination. The might of the heavens is hard to predict." Immortal Emperor Gaochen looked at the sky where the 5 chi righteous thunder was. He transmitted his voice behind the book and said, "Even I can't understand the meaning behind it. Then how do we break this Book Mountain?" The East Sea Empress saw Immortal Emperor Gaochen's worry and quickly asked with a smile, "There's a path on Book Mountain." Immortal Emperor Gaochen said, "As long as we find the path and recite the inscriptions, we can reach the top." Oh, the East Sea Empress understood. Boom! Wen Chu opened his mouth, and the Heaven and Earth Pagoda flew out. Wen Chu pointed at the Heaven and Earth Pagoda, and the Heaven and Earth Pagoda immediately flashed arrogantly and covered Wen Chu. The inscription armor that fell like rain hit the Heaven and Earth Pagoda and immediately shattered into strokes. Oh my God! The East Sea Empress laughed and held her forehead. Why did the master of the Literature Star Palace break the formation like a Tao cultivator? Immortal Emperor Gaochen shrugged and said helplessly, "One is marked by the company one keeps. He and Xiao Hua are very close, so he must have been influenced. However, the master of the Literature Star Palace is very good at controlling treasures. The inscriptions on the Book Mountain can't break it, so this Book Mountain can be considered broken." The guide's face. The East Sea Empress didn't dare to think too much. The master of the Supreme Purity Palace has come out. Immortal Emperor Gaochen didn't have time to look at Wen Chu and quickly looked at the other side. The Heaven and Earth Cauldron, which was much smaller than before, had already separated. The master of the Supreme Purity Palace appeared in an extremely sorry state. His robe was burned to pieces, and the crown on his head was gone. His hair was disheveled, and even the skin that was exposed outside of his robe had traces of blood. However, before the master of the Supreme Purity Palace could breathe a sigh of relief, the bamboo scroll above his head shattered, and inscriptions also fell down like a mountain. Immortal Emperor Gaochen narrowed his eyes and said thoughtfully, "The master of the Supreme Purity Palace and the master of the Literature Star Palace are facing the tribulation together. It seems like they are at a disadvantage, but in reality, they are at a great advantage. This Heaven and Earth Cauldron is the 5 Chi's unification technique of the master of the Supreme Purity Palace. Can't be passed so easily. I'm afraid that because the master of the Literature Star Palace stepped out of Book Mountain, the other guy didn't dare to delay too much." Boom boom. At this moment the sound of a flood was heard again. Immortal Emperor Gaochen was shocked and hurriedly looked at the place where Wen Chu was facing the tribulation. He saw that the other scroll had shattered, and countless tiny inscriptions flashing with golden light turned into streams of water and rushed towards Wen Chu. "Damn it!" Immortal Emperor Gaochen cursed and ordered, "Where is Tai Bai Jinxing? Your Majesty!" Tai Bai Jinxing was originally standing in the distance, not daring to disturb the reunion between Immortal Emperor Gaochen and the East Sea Empress. When he heard Immortal Emperor Gaochen's order, he hurriedly flew over PS. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a gift, and thank you for all your support. http://www. Qidian. Combook 10041444972. ASPX King of Order Introduction 1. A divine artifact descended from the heavens, with a strange artifact spirit hidden within. Ordinary student Su Ji turned something rotten into something magical, and he dominated the city of mortals. Introduction 2. My name is Su Ji. On the surface I am the CEO of the Order Company, But in reality, I have a divine artifact inside my body. I am a cultivator who cultivates by maintaining the order of the heavens. I am the future enforcer of the immortal world. I am the king of order of the sun sector. Xiao Duan Tanhua City's new book has already been completed. It is the first Xianxiao novel of 16 million words. The story of the cultivation god. Readers who are interested in the development of Xiao Duan Tanhua's new book can join the public WeChat account, Xiao Duan Tanhua, or join the QQ group to discuss the plot. 116-565446, 175-71364. Chapter 52-59. Pay attention to this sea of knowledge. Immortal Emperor Go-chan pointed at the bamboo below Wen Chu's feet and said, "If the bamboo cannot stop the sea of knowledge, immediately order true monarch Shueda to use his immortal imperial equipment to stop it. Do not let a single drop of this sea of knowledge fall into the hidden immortal continent." "Yes, your servant obeys." Tai Bai Jingxing received the order and quickly left. East Sea Empress was confused and asked, "Your Majesty, this is the sea of knowledge? Why are you so nervous?" "Empress, have you forgotten?" Immortal Emperor Go-chan smiled. In the ancient times, the hidden immortal continent was flooded. That flood was caused by Wenxing's tribulation. East Sea Empress covered her mouth in shock. "Of course." Immortal Emperor Go-chan nodded. "From what I know, that negligent guide was punished to go down to the lower realms to control the flood. After 10 generations, he returned to the heavenly court. From then on, the guides became more cautious and no longer dared to use the sea of knowledge." Immortal Emperor Go-chan looked at the space covered by the sea of knowledge. Wen Chu's figure was nowhere to be seen. He said worriedly, "The sea of knowledge is boundless, this suffering." However, before Immortal Emperor Go-chan could finish speaking, another great gust of wind appeared. The sea of knowledge that was engulfed in space disappeared at a visible rate. Not only was Wen Chu's figure revealed, but space itself also gradually became clear. The heaven and earth pagoda that had just been recalled was now hovering above Wen Chu's head. All of the falling torrents were absorbed by the pagoda. When they fell below the pagoda, they all shattered into strokes. Sai using force to break through again. Immortal Emperor Go-chan shook his head and said to East Sea Empress, "In the future, don't say that the master of the literature palace ascended from my immortal palace. I don't know him." Hee. East Sea Empress smiled with happiness in her eyes. Woo! With the sea of knowledge broken, the hidden immortal continent's fate once again condensed into a chrysanthemum. This chrysanthemum was golden and beautiful. It carried Wen Chu into the sky and rushed towards the scroll. At the same time, the scroll also rumbled and clouds descended like stairs to welcome Wen Chu. However, in the split second that the ladder-like clouds touched the song of literature, an earth-shattering sound of a bell rang out. Wherever the bell rang, the scrolls were broken, the clouds were extinguished, the sea of learning was severed, and the chrysanthemum was destroyed. The space within 5,000 kilometers of Wen Chu was annihilated inch by inch, turning into chaos. When the bell chimes became indistinct and turned into a lingering sound, countless pitch-black, gray gas surged out from the shattered area. Waves of indescribable whistling sounds surrounded Wen Chu, and an aura of desolation, despair, helplessness, and annihilation surged out from this gray gas. Forget about the gray gas. Where this aura passed, all things withered. Even the surging clouds at the top of the celestial palace would fade and turn gray when they came into contact with this aura. Fortunately, this aura seemed to be heavy and couldn't travel very far. It only lingered in the area where the gray aura was condensed. Death realm? Immortal Emperor Gaochen was dumbfounded and shouted in disbelief. "Isn't this guide a bit exaggerated? Your Majesty, the Lord of the Shangqing Palace." The East Sea Empress cried out in panic. How did he also fall into a death trap? It can't be. Immortal Emperor Go-chan quickly looked to the other side. Sure enough, the scroll mountain was broken. It was the master of the Supreme Pure Palace who was chanting. He looked up in confusion and saw the destruction of the nearby space. His eyes were filled with shock. Before the Lord of the Shangqing Palace could do anything, Book Mountain was also destroyed by the gray gas. The Lord of the Shangqing Palace was gradually surrounded by the gray gas and sealed. I understand now. Today, the Lord of the Shangqing Palace and the Lord of the Wisdom Palace are undergoing their tribulations at the same time. This is out of the expectations of the Heavenly Court's guide. Today, only one guide will come out of the book gate to receive them. Immortal Emperor Gaochen heaved a sigh of relief and nodded. If that's the case, the Lord of the Shangqing Palace really benefited from the Lord of the Wisdom Palace. With his strength he might be able to pass through Book Mountain, but it won't be easy to pass through the Sea of Learning. Now he directly entered the death trap. There's only one last test left. Once he passes it, he will ascend to the Heavenly Court. At this moment the gray aura was like a cocoon, blocking the vision of the scholarly cultivators. No one could see what was happening inside. However, the East Sea Empress could see that there were many phantoms outside the gray aura that looked like demons and ghosts. There were also layers upon layers of ghostly apparitions. The East Sea Empress couldn't help but whisper, "Your Majesty, I'm afraid it's not that simple." Of course it's not that simple. Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled bitterly. This is the death trap. If one doesn't have the ability to come back from death's door, how can they escape? Immortal Emperor Gaochen naturally didn't know that when Chu, who was in the death trap, saw the ghost-like death gas rushing towards him, the light around his body dimmed and his Xiantian true qi withered. How could he not know that this was the death trap that everyone feared? If it was someone like the Lord of the Shangqing Palace, they could only protect themselves with a clear heart and wait for the death trap to self-destruct. However, how could Wen Chu be an ordinary one-star? He slapped his forehead and the 5 qis rushed out. As the 5 qis surged, half of the flower-like scroll shone like a star. Where the starlight shone, it had already blocked the gray gas. Not only that, Wen Chu, who was already proficient in the Tao of life and death, opened his mouth. Woo! The vitality in his chest spurted out. This vitality was just a breath, but wherever it went, green seeds were everywhere. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In an instant the seeds sprouted. Tenacious, tough, vigorous and hopeful auras began to spread. Vitality was gradually born everywhere. When Wen Chu blew another breath, it was as if spring had returned to the earth. The seeds grew rapidly. Fragrant grass and trees had already occupied the nearby space. Ha ha! Wen Chu laughed. He opened his mouth again and was about to spurt out the third breath of vitality. At this moment, woo-woo! The demonic sound was vast and mighty, and the earth suddenly turned pitch black. As for Xiaohua and the Thunder Immortal, one wielded the 5 elements wishful heaven staff to destroy the tribulation lightning. The other used the soaring dragon shears to destroy the tribulation lightning. They were extremely arrogant. However, in the end, the white lightning fell like dense raindrops, enveloping the area around Xiaohua. The pressure in the space gradually increased, forcing Xiaohua to fall. Xiaohua couldn't help but be surprised. That's not right. Xiaohua stole a glance at the sky. He couldn't see the celestial world gate anymore. The sky was silvery white, and lightning tribulation power was everywhere. He couldn't see the end of it. Xiaohua couldn't help but think, even if it's tribulation lightning, there has to be a change. It can't always be this white tribulation lightning. Didn't the celestial world gate have other tribulation lightning before? Why didn't they fall? Moreover, I'm ascending. The immortal qi in my body has already. Thinking of the immortal qi, Xiaohua suddenly came to his senses. Almost at the same time, he seemed to have woken up from a dream. He slapped his forehead and said regretfully, "Damn it, didn't I become stupid? As the celestial world's law enforcer, Suji didn't tell me about the celestial world's lightning tribulation. However, Fairy Xing, you had already vaguely mentioned that the process of ascension was the conversion of true core strength into immortal qi. How did the immortal qi convert?" Suji didn't say, and neither did Fairy Xingyu. However, wasn't the tribulation lightning in front of him the answer? When others resist the tribulation lightning, they are afraid that the tribulation lightning will fall on their bodies. They are afraid that they can't resist it. That's why they seek survival in the face of death. They hope that the immortal qi in their bodies can reach the requirements of ascension. My body is strong, far stronger than ordinary magic treasures, or even spirit tools and spirit treasures. If other spirit treasures can resist the tribulation lightning, my body can naturally resist it. Why do I need to resist the tribulation lightning? I just need to let the tribulation lightning fall on my body and generate immortal qi. Naturally, Xiaohua didn't dare to act rashly. He just shook the wishful steel staff and made a gap. Boom! The white lightning fell and hit Xiaohua's body. Sure enough, this tribulation lightning was a fatal blow to others, but when it fell on Xiaohua's body, it only sank 3 feet and stopped. There were only some traces of smoke on the surface of his body. However, a wisp of silver light in the white lightning fell into Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua felt it carefully. When the silver light fell into his body, the immortal qi that had not been converted was immediately generated. Good. Xiaohua understood and was secretly happy. He put away the wishful steel staff and let the white tribulation lightning fall on him. Ha ha ha. Since Xiaohua understood, the thunderbolt immortal also understood. He put away the Tongjiao shears and shook his head and laughed. On the shore of the West Sea, Gu Qiong old man, bright moon householder, and the others were already burning with anxiety. If it weren't for the fact that they didn't dare and couldn't fly over, they would have already explained to Xiaohua and the thunderbolt immortal that this was not the way to pass the tribulation lightning. At this time, when they saw the two of them put away the wishful steel staff and the Tongjiao shears, they felt relieved and looked at each other. Xiaohua and the thunderbolt immortal were ready to defend themselves. However, when they saw the two of them go from one extreme to the other, not only did they not release their defensive magic treasures, but they also let the tribulation lightning hit their bodies. This made them completely dizzy. What happened to the observation and experience? Where did it all go? Just as Gu Qiong old man, bright moon householder, and the others were dumbfounded, the silver tribulation lightning fell on Xiaohua and the thunderbolt immortal. Boom! There was a loud sound. As expected, the two of them were submerged by the torrent of lightning and disappeared in an instant. It can't be, right? Yi Zhen's eyes almost fell out of their sockets. They died just like that? However, when Yi Zhen looked up at the sky and saw that the celestial realm gate didn't show any signs of disappearing or retreating, he frowned again. Ha ha! Just as everyone was wondering, Xiaohua and the thunderbolt immortal laughed at the same time, and flew out of the torrent of lightning that never disappeared. Countless lightning flashed on their bodies like a spider web, and every time it flashed, a wisp of celestial spiritual qi was born in their bodies. Boom! Boom! Before the two of them finished laughing, more tribulation lightning of different shapes fell again, but this time it was obviously much weaker than before. The ball-shaped white tribulation lightning hit the thunderbolt immortal, and with a sizzling sound, the thunderbolt immortal's body fell a few feet. Then, he came to a stop and several wisps of celestial spiritual qi were born from his waist like smoke and entered his body. P.S. Fellow cultivators who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it and give it a tip. Thank you for all your support. http://www. Qidian. Combook 10041444972. SPX King of Order Introduction 1. A divine artifact from the heavens with a strange artifact spirit. Ordinary student Suji turned something rotten into something magical. Introduction to My name is Suji. On the surface, I am the CEO of the Order Company, but in fact I have a divine artifact in my body. I am a cultivator who cultivates by maintaining the order of the heavenly Tao. I am the future enforcer of the celestial realm. I am the king of order of the sun star field. Xiaoduan Tanhua City's new book has been completed, starting from the first Xianxia novel of 16 million words, The Legend of the Cultivation God. Readers who are concerned about the development of Xiaoduan Tanhua's new book can join the public WeChat account, Xiaoduan Tanhua, or add the QQ group to discuss the plot. 116565446 1705713, 64. Chapter 5260. Soon after, tribulation thunders fell one after another. Although their power didn't decrease, the number of thunders gradually decreased. In fact, it was far less than the number of heavenly thunders that Xiaohua and the thunderbolt immortal had faced for the first time. The two of them calmly stood in midair as if they were taking a bath, welcoming the baptism of the tribulation thunders. Mother ****. Kong Chong couldn't help but howl in grief. Alliance Master Daoist Xiao and the others, Are they crossing the tribulation? What can we comprehend from crossing this kind of tribulation? Apart from challenging our limits, they're also trampling on our knowledge. I think that it's better if we don't watch it at all. Yizhan smiled and said, after watching Taoist Xiao cross the tribulation, we at least know one thing, and that is that our Tao sex cultivators don't just have to refine energy and give birth to nascent souls, they also have to temper their bodies. Since Taoist Xiao was able to modify the nascent soul and gold core cultivation techniques, he must have dabbled in the 39 golden body. Therefore, his body must have been tempered to a terrifying degree. That's why he was able to abandon his magic treasure and resist the tribulation thunders. Who doesn't know this principle? Bright Moon Householder said indifferently. But which cultivator on the Yilan continent can do it? A person's energy is limited. Old man Gu Qiong said with a bitter smile. In my early years, I also dabbled in the 39 golden body, and I even had a deep understanding of body cultivation techniques. However, I'm still unable to practice several cultivation techniques at the same time. Moreover, a cultivator's lifespan is also limited. Even a poor gold core cultivator might not be able to step into the nascent soul realm in his whole life, let alone practice the golden body. Yizhan raised his eyes and looked at the two different gates of the immortal world high in the sky. Saiyan tribulation thunders fell again in the form of balls and spears. The Thunderbolt Immortal and Xiaohua were still able to resist them with their bodies. Yizhan said in an admiring tone, Taoist Xiao and the Thunderbolt Immortal must have had some kind of lucky chance to face the tribulation like this. Let's wait and see. The Saiyan tribulation thunders weren't blocked by Xiaohua and the Thunderbolt Immortal, and they fell on their bodies like flowing water. However, they didn't cause any trouble to them except for the bright silver immortal energy. After the green tribulation lightning, it was blue tribulation lightning and red tribulation lightning. When the red tribulation lightning struck down, the immortal spiritual energy in Xiaohua's body had already reached a bottleneck, so the power of the red tribulation lightning increased by 30%. Seeing that he was repeatedly struck down from the sky by the red tribulation lightning, Xiaohua understood that in the 4 great continents, although the immortal spiritual energy in his body could allow him to leave this realm, it alone could not allow him to smoothly ascend to the immortal realm. Only the 5 elements tribulation lightning from the immortal world gate could help him complete his initial transformation. As for the final transformation, it was most likely the legendary spirit cleansing pool. Boom! The red tribulation lightning stopped, and the final yellow tribulation lightning of the immortal world gate crashed down. This tribulation thunder was more than twice as powerful as before. The Thunderbolt Immortal had already seen the illusion of a small world within the tribulation thunder. Strands of lightning were like rocks, flowers, and birds. They were all born from the center of the tribulation thunder. The Thunderbolt Immortal seemed to have thought of something. Without hesitation, he raised his hand and slammed it down. Boom! There was a loud sound. At the top of his head, 5 bolts of lightning shot up into the sky, forming a giant hand that grabbed towards the sky. The 9 heavens divine lightning? Old man Gu Qiong had good eyesight. When he saw the 5 bolts of lightning condensing in the sky, he couldn't help but praise. Senior Thunderbolt Immortal has cultivated the 9 heavens divine lightning to such a degree. He has really seized the fortune of heaven and earth. The fortune gate is indeed the fortune gate. Kong Chong also praised. Of course, the Thunderbolt Immortal's hand of lightning was indeed powerful, but it was no match for the tribulation lightning. When the yellow tribulation lightning fell, not only did it compress the void, creating many ripples, but the hand of lightning also dissipated when it came in contact with the yellow tribulation lightning. Boom boom boom. The Thunderbolt Immortal resisted the urge to use the soaring dragon shears, and executed a series of lightning techniques. Finally, before the yellow tribulation lightning fell, more than half of it was destroyed. Although only less than half of the tribulation lightning was left, it was formed from a small world. Boom! With a loud sound, the yellow tribulation lightning smashed into the Thunderbolt Immortal's body. Woo-woo! Immediately after, a hurricane rose and the tribulation lightning roared. It expanded rapidly, as if it was going to burst the space within 10,000 miles. Old man Gu Qiong and the others were shocked and hurriedly fled. Roar! However, after 100 miles, The thunderbolt immortal roared again. Before Old Man Guqiong and the others could turn around, another earth-shattering sound rang out. The thunderbolt immortal's hand stretched out from the yellow tribulation lightning and tore it apart. Before the thunderbolt immortal could fly out, he opened his mouth and swallowed the shattered tribulation lightning into his stomach. Oh my God! Yi Zhen couldn't help but click his tongue again. Why is the thunderbolt immortal so powerful? He seems to be more powerful than Taoist Xiao. At the same time, Xiaohua used his nascent soul hand to destroy more than half of the yellow tribulation lightning. The tribulation lightning pierced through Xiaohua's head and pierced deep into his body. In the blink of an eye, Xiaohua's body was engulfed by the tribulation lightning from the inside out. However, the power of this tribulation lightning was much weaker than that of the thunderbolt immortal. However, just as the thunderbolt immortal tore apart the tribulation lightning, Xiaohua flew out from it. As for the yellow tribulation lightning, only a faint trace of lightning was left, and it dissipated in the air in a moment. At this moment, regardless of whether it was Xiaohua or the thunderbolt immortal, their bodies had already produced an extremely large amount of bright silver brilliance. These speckles of brilliance looked extremely strange, but these speckles of brilliance also produced a kind of enormous power, forcing the cultivators of the 4 great continents to feel fear in their hearts. Just as the first bolt of yellow tribulation lightning was annihilated, the second bolt of yellow tribulation lightning came pouring down from the celestial world gate. However, before the tribulation lightning could leave the celestial world gate, the silver light around Xiaohua and the thunder immortal flickered slightly. The two of them were unable to control themselves and were sent flying for over 1,000 miles before they came to a stop. At the same time, the second bolt of yellow tribulation lightning unexpectedly disappeared. This is... Old Man Guqiong and the others were puzzled and looked at each other in dismay. Yi Zhen was about to say something, but he seemed to have thought of something and closed his mouth. If Yi Zhen could think of it, Kong Chong and the others might not, let alone Old Man Guqiong and the Jiyan immortal. However, the mystery of the tribulation lightning was the secret of ascension, and Yi Zhen might not be willing to share it. Xiaohua and the thunderbolt immortal sensed that the immortal spiritual qi in their bodies was surging like a tide, rising and falling with the flickering silver light of the celestial world gate. They knew that the immortal spiritual qi in their bodies had reached the limit of ascension. However, when they looked up at the sky, they saw that the celestial world gate was still like a huge monster, and countless runes were still flying out. However, there were no light pillars falling down like they had expected, and no immortals were coming out of the gate. The two of them were quite surprised. The only thing they could do now was wait and see. Woo-woo. Just as Xiaohua and the thunderbolt immortal were waiting, a burst of silver tadpole-like runes gushed out from the celestial world gate above the thunderbolt immortal's head. Layers of golden runes gushed out from the vortex-like celestial world gate above Xiaohua's head. Regardless of whether it was silver or golden runes, they all carried a kind of soul-shaking whistling sound and an aura that suppressed the heavens and the earth. As soon as the 2 runes appeared, they firmly covered Xiaohua and the thunderbolt immortal respectively, and an indescribable sense of crisis arose from the bottom of their hearts at the same time. This is the real tribulation lightning. Xiaohua and the thunderbolt immortal did not dare to be negligent. One of them took out the soaring dragon shears, while the other took out the wishful staff again. Boom boom boom. The heavens and the earth shook again, and the thunder that had previously covered the sky rushed towards the golden and silver runes. After the golden runes were absorbed by the thunderbolt immortal, countless white tiger-like crystal threads burst out from the runes and gathered above Xiaohua's head. As for the thunderbolt immortal's head, after the silver runes were broken, countless small sword-shaped crystal threads gathered. After the thunder tide, the heavens and the earth suddenly became silent. The crystal threads gathered silently, but in this silence, there was a gradual accumulation of oppression. After half an hour above Xiaohua's head, a white tiger's body flashed, and an aura that could devour the heavens was born. The pair of pupilless tiger eyes only reflected Xiaohua's figure. Roar! The white tiger roared and fell from the sky. Wherever its aura passed, puff 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 sounds of explosions rang out. The originally awe-inspiring immortal aura around Xiaohua's body was now swaying and almost extinguishing. Although the white tiger's claws were still very far away from Xiaohua, The murderous sharpness had already crossed the void and pierced Xiao Hua's golden body. The body that was not afraid of the tribulation lightning just now, shwa shwa shwa, began to crack, not to mention the golden light that protected the body, which had long been extinguished by the sharp wind. Good timing. Xiao Hua's figure flickered, and the metal escape technique was activated. His figure faced the danger head-on, and the wishful staff swayed and stretched out between the tiger's claws. First, it hit the white tiger's right claw, and then, taking advantage of the white tiger's left claw, his figure flashed. The wishful staff lightly touched the white tiger's right claw, and his figure suddenly rushed out of the white tiger's claw like a shadow. Then the wishful staff fell with a boom, and smashed on the white tiger's forehead. Taoist Xiao is crazy. Jiyan Zhenren shook his head with a wry smile and said, "This is the 5 elements primordial spirit formed by the tribulation lightning. How can an ordinary celestial artifact destroy it?" Yes, although this celestial artifact has destroyed the tribulation lightning before. Old man Guqiong was also worried. But the tribulation lightning is a dead thing. This tribulation lightning uses the soul of the gold element primordial spirit of the immortal world, which is more ferocious than ordinary spirit treasures. No, than heavenly spirit treasures. Even if Taoist Zhao's staff technique is superb, what's the use of hitting this primordial spirit? P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support. Vote for a monthly vote. Vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark and reward. Thank you for all forms of support. http://www. Qidian. Combook 10041444972. ASPX. King of Order Introduction 1. A celestial artifact with a strange artifact spirit hidden in it. An ordinary student, Su Ji, turned something rotten into something magical. Introduction to My name is Su Ji. On the surface, I am the CEO of the Order Company, but in fact I have a celestial artifact in my body. I am a cultivator who cultivates by maintaining the order of the heavenly Tao. I am the future enforcer of the immortal world. I am the king of order of the solar star field. Xiao Duan Tanhua City's new book, the first Xianxia novel with 16 million words, has been completed. Readers who are interested in the development of Xiao Duan Tanhua's new book can join the public WeChat account, Xiao Duan Tanhua, or join the QQ group to discuss the plot. 116565446, 1705713, 64. Chapter 5261. These Taoist supremes had good insight and knowledge, but they still underestimated Xiao Hua's 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel. However, there were many shadows of the stick, and in the end it only turned into a unique heaven-reaching stick. With a poof sound, it smashed on the top of the 5 elements' original spirit. Roar! The white tiger let out a sorrowful roar, and its huge body collapsed rapidly. The silver primordial spirit's aura flowed in all directions. Just the aura of the primordial spirit alone was enough to tear the surrounding void apart. The white tiger's might was evident from this. How is this possible? Yi Zhen exclaimed. What prehistoric ominous weapon is in Taoist Zhao's hand? How can it kill the primordial spirits of the immortal world? 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel. Kong Chong exclaimed in a low voice, as if he had just woken up from a dream. Impossible. Old man Guqiong seemed to have heard of the 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel, and he said flatly, how can the Yilan continent refine an ancient ominous weapon? Of course it's impossible for us. Bright Moon Householder said with a smile, it's just like how we can't resist the tribulation thunder with our bodies. But as long as it's Taoist Xiao, I won't be surprised, no matter what it is. The Yilan continent can't refine the 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel. Yi Zhen thought for a moment and said, after all, the laws of heaven and earth of the Yilan continent can't allow such an ancient ominous weapon to exist. But Taoist Xiao might have gotten it from somewhere else. Don't forget that he has been to the 10,000 demon realm. That's true. Old man Guqiong nodded and looked at the thunderbolt immortal. After all, Xiao Hua had an ancient ominous weapon. Let alone the 5 elements primordial spirits. Even the 6 elements primordial spirits were no match for this wishful heaven cudgel. Looking at the thunderbolt immortal again, he saw the crystal silk above his head condense into a golden sword with the power of thunder. This golden sword condensed the golden chi of the immortal world and fell down with a loud bang. Even the light shadow was cut in half by this golden sword. However, the thunderbolt immortal laughed when he saw this golden sword. He rubbed his hands and strands of bright silver celestial art, which fell on the soaring dragon shears. Swish! The two dragons reappeared, swinging their tails, and they directly chopped the golden sword. The lightning immortal knows immortal arts? Yizhen called out numbly again. He was truly speechless. This scissor-like spiritual treasure is unexpectedly an immortal artifact, Bright Moon Householder said with a smile. It seems like the lightning immortal's luck isn't any worse than immortal Zhao's. The Tang Jiao shears did not disappoint the cultivators of the Yilin continent. Under the golden light, although it was not as powerful as the wishful staff, it still blocked the falling golden sword. Then it once again urged the immortal spiritual energy, and as the golden dragon raised its head and roared, the golden sword was split in half. The golden sword was split apart and also shattered, turning into golden light that scattered in all directions. Boom, boom, boom. Just as the golden swords disappeared, more golden runes flew out from the celestial world gate. An even thicker killing intent was brewing under the celestial world gate. Shortly after, in the tribulation space where the lightning immortal was, the wood marrow took shape. The wood chi of the celestial world took shape, and it fell down like teardrops. The lightning immortal was caught off guard. And although he urged the Tang Jiao shears to destroy the wood marrow, a trace of the wood marrow still fell on his lightning dharma body. Just a trace of the wood marrow immediately destroyed half of his body. The lightning immortal howled in grief. He wanted to urge his magic power to repair his body, but his body was already at a critical point, and his magic power was unable to repair it. As for the immortal spiritual energy, the lightning immortal could only urge a few celestial arts, and it was impossible for him to repair his body. Therefore, when the celestial world's water vapor turned into ice and sealed the space, he did not think of a way to repair it. The ice and snow of the celestial world could not be compared to the ice and snow of the four great continents. It sealed the space in the blink of an eye, and even the lightning was frozen. If Xiaohua faced this ice power, he would have to go through a lot of trouble. But the lightning immortal was different. The lightning around his body surged crazily, and his dharma body turned into lightning, rushing toward the sky recklessly. Ka ka ka. The ice and snow cracked, but it did not completely shatter. Pooh! The lightning immortal opened his mouth, and the thunder annihilation pearl, which was almost broken, flew out. The lightning immortal raised his hand and pointed. Boom! It was as if a small kiliocosm was destroyed, and an enormous lightning power rushed out. Ka-cha-cha! The ice and snow seal was immediately shattered, and the lightning immortal flew out in a rather sorry state along with the lightning. However, the lightning immortal also used the ice and snow, and the lightning of the thunder annihilation pearl to repair his dharma body. The lightning immortal had just stood still when silver tadpole-like characters fell again. Layers of magma, which seemed to be able to destroy the world, poured down in torrents without waiting for him to make any preparations. The lightning immortal hurriedly took out a few spiritual treasures. But how could these spiritual treasures withstand the celestial world's fire vapor? The spiritual treasures were melted by the heat, and the lightning immortal had no choice but to take out the innate primordial water. Zzz. The water and fire met, creating a strange shape. There was no water vapor, but the void was destroyed again, and all kinds of light and shadow flashed chaotically in the void. The lightning immortal did not dare to be careless. Seeing an opening, he turned into a light and flew up to the sky, above the magma. Woo! Just as the lightning immortal's figure appeared, a loud whimpering sound was heard. A shadow, which looked as if the sky had been torn apart, flew out of the gate of the immortal realm. At first, it was only the size of a fist, but after passing through the waves of lightning, it had turned into a star that was tens of thousands of feet long. Damn it! The lightning immortal cursed. You won't even let me take a breath and you want me to die? Since that's the case, I'll go all out. After saying that, the lightning immortal opened his mouth again and took out the seal of sea overturn. As the lightning in his mouth fell, the seal of sea overturn also turned into 1,000 feet long, and the coiling dragon pushed the seal towards the star. However, looking at the size of the seal and the star, The lightning immortal did not have much hope for the seal of sea overturn. When his figure once again rushed into the sky, he used his spiritual will like a hammer. Boom! Sure enough, the seal of sea overturn was like an ant trying to shake an elephant. When it collided with the star, it immediately rolled and showed signs of cracking. The lightning immortal hurriedly retracted it, and then heard the sound of the collision was more intense than firecrackers. Seeing that the star could not be shaken, the lightning immortal wailed, "Damn it, this is the time to use the wishful staff." Unfortunately, at this time Xiaohua had just killed the white tiger, the azure dragon, the black tortoise, and the vermilion bird. At this time he was facing the Qilin. How could he give the wishful staff to the lightning immortal? The 5 elements original spirits were more difficult to fight, and Xiaohua had also killed the vermilion bird. Now that he encountered the Qilin, he could only shake his spirit and desperately deal with it. After another round of martial arts, not to mention that the lightning immortal's Dharma idol was beaten into tatters, even Xiaohua's body was also scarred. Fortunately, the Qilin was also afraid of Xiaohua's wishful staff, and did not dare to press too hard. When it saw the wishful staff coming, it dodged most of the time so Xiaohua could also deal with it for a time. Even so, the supremes of Taoist cultivators were dumbfounded. Previously, in the forbidden land of Tianfeng, Xiaohua crushed Long Shenxi to death with one palm, and then used his benevolence and magnanimity to convince everyone. The Tao cultivators did not have a particularly intuitive understanding of Xiaohua's power. Now they saw that in the high sky, in an unknown space, the immortal spiritual qi was wanton, and the murderous aura was soaring. Every attack of the Qilin original spirit of the immortal world had the power to overturn mountains and seas, and the tribulation cultivators of the mortal world were even more valiant. The wishful staff not only smashed the sky, but also destroyed the attacking thunder. A kind of unyielding spirit that dared to fight against the heavens, dared to fight against the earth, came out from that heaven-defying staff shadow, which made everyone's blood boil. They really did not expect that tribulation transcendence could be so carefree and unrestrained. The Qilin was an immortal and indestructible original spirit, but Xiaohua was not. With a moment of carelessness, the immortal spiritual qi was not easy to activate, and the Qilin immediately took advantage. Poof! With a sound, the Qilin's sharp claws passed through the void and grabbed Xiaohua's back. Xiaohua's flesh burst open, and he was hit to the point of rolling in midair. But the strange thing was, in the burst open wound, not a trace of blood seeped out. Oh! The Qilin raised its head and let out a long howl. The earthy yellow brilliance shone brightly, and where the brilliance fell, hundreds of Qilins were born in the air near Xiaohua. The imposing manner of these Qilins was not the slightest bit inferior to the Qilins earlier. One by one, they roared and pounced on the unsteady Xiaohua. Not good. Everyone was shocked, and their hearts clenched. Just at this critical moment they saw Wu, a black and white light screen fly out from Xiaohua's hand. In the end, the execution spirit vital light was still sent out. That murderous black and white light soared into the sky. Even if it was the original spirits of the immortal world, seeing this kind of innate nemesis, they were also greatly shocked. However, without waiting for them to make any response, hundreds of execution spirit vital lights separately fell, and precisely nailed on the heads of these Qilins. Oh! Hundreds of beasts cried in unison, but this cry was also filled with sorrow, as if they knew that their doomsday had arrived. Hearing this, Xiaohua's originally raised finger did not fall. Instead, he faintly smiled and said, "You all are just doing your job. If I were to kill you all, it would really be inappropriate. Go!" Finished speaking, Xiaohua raised his hand and beckoned. The black and white brilliance on the sword gourd revolved, and the hundreds of execution spirit vital light unexpectedly withdrew. When the execution spirit vital light disappeared, the hundreds of Qilins felt as if they had been pardoned. Oh! They cried, and lightning flashed around their bodies. Hundreds of Earth original spirits transformed into threads of light and flew out of the Qilins' bodies. They gathered under the gate of heaven and transformed into a huge Qilin phantom. This Qilin phantom rushed towards Xiaohua and nodded, then transformed into a light shadow and rushed into the gate of immortal world, disappearing without a trace. As for where those Qilins were before, after the Qilin original spirits disappeared, they revealed immortal spirit vital crystals. Streams of dense immortal spirit vital qi seeped out from these vital crystals. Seeing this, Xiaohua was overjoyed. He opened his mouth and with a howl, the vital crystals all fell into his mouth. Wang wang wang. As the vital crystals fell into his mouth, Xiaohua's entire body shone with silver brilliance. Between the previously separated silver spots, countless threads of light were added. Xiaohua's figure also seemed to have grown invisible wings as he soared into the sky. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, gift, and thank you for all forms of support. http://www. Qidian. Combook 10041444972. ASPX King of Order Introduction 1. A divine artifact descended from the heavens, hiding an exotic artifact spirit. An ordinary student, Su Ji, turned something rotten into something magical, moving unhindered through the mortal cities. Introduction 2. My name is Su Ji. On the surface, I am the CEO of the Order Company, but in reality, I have a divine artifact in my body. I am a cultivator who cultivates by maintaining the order of the heavenly Tao. I am the future enforcer of the immortal world. I am the king of order of the sun star field. Xiaoduan Tanhua City's new book, already completed 16 million words, the first Xianxia novel, the story of the cultivation god. Book friends who are concerned about the development of Xiaoduan Tanhua's new book can join the public WeChat account, Xiaoduan Tanhua, or add the QQ group to discuss the plot. 116565446, 1705713, 64. Chapter 5262. Xiaohua released the spirit-slaying primordial light. The thunderbolt immortal also became ruthless. Seeing the falling star, he roared, "I'll kill you." Thunderbolts began to rumble around the thunderbolt immortal. 9-colored lightning mixed with silver-white immortal qi turned into a huge hand of lightning that grabbed at the falling star. The ancients said, "When the heavens unleash killing intent, the stars move. When the earth unleashes killing intent, dragons and serpents rise. When the man unleashes killing intent, heaven and earth turn upside down." The thunderbolt immortal's current state was just like that. The star was like the heavens unleashing killing intent. However, the thunderbolt immortal's anger grew from his guts, as he pounced at the star with a momentum that could turn heaven and earth upside down. The thunderbolt immortal was born for the Tao, and had a thunderbolt body. At this moment he no longer cared about life and death, and instead showed the true nature of thunder. In this thunder tribulation, the tribulation lightning near the hand of lightning couldn't help but be attracted by the hand. They either turned into a part of the hand or flew over to support it. Boom! A loud rumble resounded. The space within 10,000 miles was filled with lightning. No one could see what was going on. When the light and shadow shattered, the lightning clouds converged. In the torrential tribulation lightning, the star disappeared along with the thunderbolt immortal. Ahaha! While everyone was puzzled, the thunderbolt immortal slowly condensed his thunder dharma body again and stood up inch by inch. Good! Elder Guqiong clenched his fists in excitement and shouted, "If this thunderbolt immortal doesn't enter the immortal world, who else can?" Phew! In the distant immortal palace, Immortal Emperor Go-chan was paying attention to Wen Chu's tribulation. However, the Empress was more cautious. Seeing the thunderbolt immortal so fierce, she was happy and proud of Princess Qingqing's insight. However, she was still worried because Xiaohua and the thunderbolt immortal hadn't taken out the Kunlun mirror. She didn't know if her two daughters could be safe in the Kunlun immortal realm. The thunderbolt immortal's dharma body was formed again, but this time it was indeed damaged. However, the thunderbolt immortal stood there proudly like the most majestic man in the world. Because the thunderbolt immortal's body didn't produce immortal qi, he couldn't fly as high as Xiaohua. He could only stand there proudly under the pressure of the heavenly tribulation. However, no matter where he stood, the wind tribulation would still come. Woo! Another crack appeared on the spherical celestial realm gate, and a colorless celestial wind suddenly descended. Within a few breaths, it landed on the thunderbolt immortal's head. Humph! Thunderbolt immortal sneered. He opened his mouth and 5-colored lightning flashed, trying to block the wind. However, the wind ignored the 5-colored lightning. It blew past and closed in on Thunderbolt Immortal. Damn it! Thunderbolt Immortal frowned and cursed. He waved his hand and the Xiantian True Water flew out to form a defensive barrier. Unfortunately, the Xiantian True Water that could subdue almost anything was unable to do anything to the wind. Not good. The Thunderbolt Immortal was greatly alarmed. He hurriedly urged his body to retreat, but it was already too late. Woo! The heavenly wind poured into the Thunderbolt Immortal's head and cascaded down. It actually blew the Thunderbolt Immortal right through his heart. Ouch! The Thunderbolt Immortal, who had regained his humanity, was greatly alarmed. He hurriedly covered his lower body with both hands, thinking that he had been blown transparent. However, when the Thunderbolt Immortal lowered his head to look, other than the destruction of the true energy in his body, there was no change to his immortal energy. His lightning Dharma body was also completely undamaged. Strange. The Thunderbolt Immortal scratched his head, extremely puzzled. The Thunderbolt Immortal was puzzled, but Xiaohua suddenly understood. He was the same as the Thunderbolt Immortal, unable to block any of his methods. As long as the wind poured into his head, the strange thing was that although the wind destroyed his magic power, it still blew towards his bones. The wind strands were like the world's finest and sharpest flying swords, madly stabbing towards Xiaohua's bones. Damn it, damn it! Xiaohua did not feel anything, but the celestial above the West Sea roared and shouted, "Damned heavens, what did I do to provoke you? I am not going through the tribulation, why are you stabbing me?" Haha! Xiaohua laughed and thought to himself, so this is the wind tribulation, the heavenly astral wind of the immortal world. When this heavenly astral wind enters the body, it will shatter the bones. However, this Zhao's bones are refined with 7 colors. How can I be afraid of this heavenly astral wind? As the heavenly astral wind revolved in Xiaohua's body, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, purple and other colors were born on the surface of Xiaohua's body like a wheel. In the darkness where the tribulation lightning flickered, where the cultivators of the 4 continents could not approach, the Grand Mist Ancestor's figure quietly appeared. The unparalleled pressure of the heavenly tribulation fell on his body, as if he did not feel it. The Grand Mist Ancestor originally lowered his head to check if there were any flaws in the tribulation lightning and prepared to attack. However, at this time, the 7 colors on the surface of Xiaohua's body lit up the tribulation lightning's darkness like a candle, and the Grand Mist Ancestor's figure actually appeared. The Grand Mist Ancestor was stunned for a moment, then he hurriedly swayed and forced himself into the void. When he escaped from another dark place, he looked at Xiaohua with a shocked expression and said, "Damn it, is this guy a descendant of the upper realm's god race? This is clearly the 7 colors of the god race's bones, and this is only 7 colors. If it is 9 colors, wouldn't he be able to enter the upper realm?" However, after a short while, the Grand Mist Ancestor's eyes turned, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a thought-provoking smile. Hey, this is really a fortuitous encounter from the heavens. If this lousy occupies this human's unformed divine soul, after cultivating in the immortal world for a while, won't this lousy be able to return to the upper realm? When this lousy returns to the upper realm, I won't be the insignificant insect in the eyes of the god race. Since that's the case, why should this lousy stay here and scheme against this guy? Once he enters the immortal world, it won't be too late for this lousy to kill him. After saying that, the Grand Mist Ancestor's body twisted strangely, and turned into a stream of light that fell into the void, stealthily approaching the majestic immortal world gates in the sky. The Thunderbolt Immortal was naturally baffled, because he was originally Xiaohua's doppelganger. Although he was now an independent human, before the immortal world's body-shaping light pillar fell, he couldn't be considered to have a skeleton. Therefore, the heavenly astral wind of the immortal world was a pearl cast into darkness. However, when the heavenly astral wind blew, it could be considered to have cleansed the Thunderbolt Immortal's body from inside out. In addition to the cleansing from the 5 elements tribulation lightning, this lightning tribulation could be considered to have completely cleansed the Thunderbolt Immortal's mortal aura. When the heavenly astral wind passed, the Thunderbolt Immortal immediately flew high, tens of thousands of feet higher than Xiaohua. However, at this time, suddenly 2 fist-sized pitch-black things flew out from the 2 immortal world gates. When the two pitch-black things left the range of the immortal world gates, they immediately turned into dense black chi, rapidly enveloping the space where the tribulation was taking place. No one could see the situation inside. Good heavens! The Grand Mist Ancestor was originally sneaking towards the immortal world gates, but when he saw the black chi surging out, he was forced to fly out from the void. When he saw the black chi, he was inexplicably shocked, and he exclaimed in a low voice, "What's going on with this Tao cultivator? How can he be so ruthless to his own descendants? This is death chi, and it's one grade higher than the death chi of the three continents. How can an ordinary human resist it? Using black chi to kill, he really can think of it. 9 deaths 1 life I don't understand. As he spoke, the Grand Mist Ancestor's mouth twitched, and a puzzled expression appeared on his face. He hid at the side and watched, waiting for the immortal world gates to open. Although the world-exterminating mayfly was an insignificant mayfly from the upper realm, its experience was not something Xiaohua could compare to. However, when Xiaohua saw the black chi seal the surrounding space, and dense death chi and despair rush towards him, how could Xiaohua, who had already explored the Tao of life and death, not know how to deal with it? Not to mention Xiaohua. Even the Thunderbolt immortals sneered. The two of them slapped the top of their heads. Rumble! A huge hand of thunder flew out from the top of their heads at the same time, grabbing towards the air. Within the huge hand there were tens of thousands of illusions made of thunder. The illusions were like small worlds, and the power of life and death gushed out, destroying the death chi. However, just as the black chi was about to be extinguished, a sorrowful voice sounded, "Darling Xiao." Shue's figure appeared from the black chi. Shue? Xiaohua was startled. The giant hand could no longer grab her husband. Shue's face showed hidden bitterness and she whispered, "This concubine is so cold. This concubine is not by your side. Are you well?" Xiaohua looked at Shue and his heart was calm. Early on in the upper realm's ruins, Xiaohua had fallen into the trap of the heavenly devil. At that time, he had only relied on his obsession with Shue to escape. Now this obsession had been sharpened into a golden needle, so how could he be tainted by the black chi's illusions? He was just unwilling to part with the memories that came from his heart, and he greedily looked at Shue's old appearance and voice. After Shue was Princess Zixia. Princess Zixia's illusions were completely different, and then Fairy Hongxia, Fairy Jing, Sun Shu, Huang Mengxiang, and the others appeared one after another. When the black chi turned white, a familiar small bridge appeared at the end of the white. The Guozhuang house? Xiaohua couldn't help but be surprised. The long-lost memories came flooding back like a tide. Unfortunately, before he could see the end of time, the world turned pitch black. The pitch black was like ink that began to drown the distant memories. At the origin of the pitch black darkness, Aoao, devil chi surged and countless black shadows flew down from the outer realm. Then, a cryptic demonic voice with bewitchment sounded. Is this the future Buddha's tribulation? Heavens, what's going on? This devil lord has never heard of the 3 great Buddha's tribulation. The problem is, with our strength, how can we devour the Buddha light of the future Buddha? How can we benefit from this Buddha fire merit? Who cares, let's eat it first. Ah, that place and that place. Oh my, why are there so many tribulation transcendents? No wonder this sovereign could come to this realm. It turns out that it's not just the future Buddha's tribulation, but also the demon race, the dragon race, and the human race's tribulation. Haha. This is the time to transcend the tribulation. It's also the time for us to be free and unfettered. Come, devil bastards, let's devour like crazy. This is our time. As Mayan laughed wildly, the extraterrestrial demons flew to the Pure Land world, the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, the hidden immortal continent, the West Sea and the North Sea. The entire 4 great continents had become a place where extraterrestrial demons danced wildly. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, gift it, and thank you for all your support. http://www. Qidian. Combook 10041444972. ASPX King of Order Introduction 1. A divine artifact descended from the heavens, with a strange artifact spirit hidden within. An ordinary student, Su Ji, turned something rotten into something magical, and moved unhindered in the mortal city. Introduction to My name is Su Ji. On the surface, I'm the CEO of the Order Corporation, but in reality, I have a divine artifact in my body. I'm a cultivator who cultivates by maintaining the order of the heavenly Tao. I'm the future enforcer of the immortal world. I'm the king of order of the solar star field. Xiaoduan Tanhua City's new book has been completed, and it's the first Xianxia novel with 16 million words. Readers who are interested in the development of Xiaoduan Tanhua's new book can join the public WeChat account, Xiaoduan Tanhua, or add the QQ group to discuss the plot. 116565446, 1705713, 64.